Australia is known for having the most insane creatures and animals around. You'll find things there you didn't even know existed. You'd really have to be very brave and courageous to go into the waters surrounding the country, considering all of the terrifying animals that don't seem to be too fond of humans. One brave scuba diver managed to capture the exact moment that he came face to face with a mermaid while observing a group of fish. The video starts off pretty normal as all sorts of different fish swim past the camera and you can only hear the sounds of the water. But at one point the fish look to start to swim around quite frantically as if there is some sort of impending danger approaching. My first assumption when watching is that probably a shark is on the way or close by, which would explain the fish moving out of the way. But the video takes a surprising turn when a mermaid swims past the camera. While some people tried to suggest that it may have been a person wearing a mermaid tail, others were quick to point out that the creature was not swimming like a human and was moving incredibly fast. The comment section on YouTube is filled with some people believing it's a human in a suit and some believing it's actually a mermaid. Real or not though, it seems everyone agreed on one thing: the video is super cool and the sound of the water is insanely satisfying. Photos of a creature resembling a mermaid alien washed ashore on an Australian beach, and it has the internet going crazy trying to figure out what the creature could possibly be. But lots of people are saying it has to be a mermaid. Photographs of the strange looking skeleton were first shared on Facebook by Bobby Lee Oates, who spotted it washed ashore on Capel Sands in Queensland while on a walk. Now, Bobby Lee explained that she was stumped as she couldn't tell if the decomposing remains were human or an entirely new species. She said, "We were driving along the beach looking for a campsite and we couldn't help but notice how much the skull looked to be in the shape of a human's. So we instantly stopped from the confusion as to what the heck this could be and why does this look like a human skull." The pictures circulating online show a very elongated bone structure with a spinal cord and ribcage and a human-looking skull with a long jaw. Further describing the remains found that many have dubbed mermaid bones, Bobby Lee told the New York Post that the body was about 6 feet long and had what resembled a tail or some sort of limb. She posted the photos on Facebook for clarity on what she found, but it just caused more mystery. This short, terrifying video that has surfaced online shows what looks to be a mermaid, or maybe merman, propped up on a barrier beside the water. This one doesn't look like a mermaid we have all been taught to think one should look like. This one is, for lack of better words, ugly and quite scary looking. Now in the video you can see it upright and it actually casts a shadow. The thing that makes this video so convincing is that it does absolutely not look like a human wearing a costume, and the way it dives into the water looks so interestingly different, almost in a way where no diver could actually achieve that. It's probably the creepiest mermaid video I've ever seen. The face is terrifying, the way it's moving is scary, and honestly if I saw that in person I'd likely run. In this footage you can see a mermaid jumping and leaping almost as if to blend in with the dolphins that are beside it. It's like the mermaid didn't want to be detected and therefore thought blending in with the dolphins swimming would make it go undetected. Well, unfortunately for the mermaid, but fortunately for us, whoever caught this amazing footage did recognize that one of those fishes, weren't the same as the other and thought quick enough to pull out either their phone or camera to record it for all of us to see. It looks like a mermaid to me and definitely stands out from the rest of the dolphins beside it. Crikey, these mermaids from Australia caught on camera will have you not wanting to go down under. This mermaid video is interesting because it comes with like two parts. First, a woman who uploaded a picture of what appears to be a mermaid's decaying body is lying on the beach, and she captioned it saying it literally has human hands. And what we see is hands that do in fact look like human hands, laying there lifeless but with some long yellow nails. That girl needed some milk. Anyway, she then shows a picture of the spine and it's curved, and yeah, it looks like a mermaid, right? So of course people came for her and was like, girl, if you come across something like this on the beach, there's no way that you're just gonna take photos. Like, why is there no video footage? Blah, blah, blah. Well, the TikToker came with receipts because she then did a follow-up video that showed a video she took of it basically showing, her bright hot pink nails as evidence that it was her who filmed that footage. Now in the video, you can actually see her lifting the mermaid's arm with a stick and moving it around. It's honestly really convincing to me, to be honest, but what do you guys think? This Australian mermaid video is absolutely captivating. scuba diving is one of the best ways to observe, some of the world's most incredible creatures, and Australia is filled with all sorts of interesting wildlife. While the country is filled with different kinds of sharks and squids, it sounds like it might also be a home to mermaids. One scuba diver in Australia accidentally proved this to the world when he unknowingly captured an actual mermaid right before his own eyes. The video starts off like any other diving trip. There's a huge collection of fish swimming around, and all you can hear are kind of bubbles and rushing water. Now, in the blink of an eye, everything changes. The fish seemingly start to panic before a massive mermaid goes swimming right past the camera, leaving the diver in a state of shock. While the diver probably wasn't intending to go looking for mermaids, he managed to have the encounter of a lifetime. Of course, there were a lot of doubters who believed the mermaid was simply a person just in a costume, but many others were quick to defend the video. They argued that it did not swim like a human, and there was no person on Earth who could swim as fast as this suspected mermaid. Footage that seems to have been captured using a drone has been circulating online. It appears to be in the Indian Ocean in Australia, and it is quite attention grabbing. In the video, you can actually see a figure swimming deep within the water, and the movements as well as the way the water moves and the waves get created from the flow is honestly quite fascinating. Although it's uncertain as to who owns this footage and whether what we're looking at is a mermaid or not, many people who have watched it are undoubtedly convinced that what we're seeing is in fact a mermaid. Australia is a hotspot for mermaid sightings, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were living deep within the Indian Ocean or any other seas, as many have been said to have spotted, a lot near the Great Barrier Reef. A very creepy face of what appears to be a mermaid was spotted in a cave in Australia. It is said to have been seen in Lake Cave, which is found in the Margaret River region of Western Australia, and Lake Cave is actually known for its beautiful crystal formations and a serene lake within the cave. But now, just maybe, let's add mermaids to that list, shall we? Now, someone who was there, presumably in the water, seemed to have captured footage of a face staring from within the cave looking right at them. There's no jump scare with this, but it kind of feels like one when you zoom in and actually see what's looking at you. The face looks almost human-like, but also kind of like a monster. It's hard to explain, but look for yourself and depict it how you wish. Now, it's quite a sight to see, a terrifying one at that, and I feel like the more you look at it, the more details you see, so give it a rewind a few times to catch something new, and let me know what you think. A mermaid swimming in the water has stunned viewers online. A video posted online from an anonymous person shows what appears to be a mermaid flowing and swimming ever so smoothly beneath the water. Some people pointed out that it was swimming quite slowly, however, and that might mean, fatigue, or that it might not be a mermaid at all. But based on what I'm seeing though, it clearly has all the characteristics of an actual mermaid. But of course, I can't be certain without seeing it in the flesh with my own two eyes. Now, whoever was filming does seem to be close to it and got pretty decent footage of it in the water. It almost looks like they are maybe a foot or two away from it. Kind of makes you wish they would jump in and try to get its attention more.
Move over, Bigfoot. The water leaper is a malicious creature from Welsh mythology and folklore that lived in swamps, ponds, rivers, and lakes. It was said to be a giant limbless frog or toad with a bat's membranous wings, sometimes even a bird's feathery wings, and a long reptilian tail with a large stinger at the very tip. So it leapt across the water using its wings, hence its name, and its favorite prey were fish, poor sheep who wandered too close to the water's edge, or even fishermen. And don't look at me, I don't fish. It was said that its appearance alone was enough to strike one dead. Never mind its venomous stinger or crazy screech that could have you doing this. This being was also said to really badly shriek. By the way, that shriek would stun its prey, and it would leap up from the water, it would snap the fishing line of fishermen, dragging whatever poor soul into the water's abyss, only to be speedily engulfed by a malignant and quite insatiable big mouth. Now, I don't know if there's been any modern sightings. It might be an extinct situation, maybe an endangered situation. Whatever it is, I'm not tempting fate. In Northern English folklore, the barguest or barguest is a mythical monstrous black dog with large teeth and claws, though in other cases the name can refer to a ghost or household elf, especially in Northumberland and Durham. So in terms of the origins of the name, ghost in Northern England was pronounced guest, and the origin is thought to be of the combination burgest, town ghost. Others explain it as similar to the German Berggeist, mountain ghost, or the bear ghost. Another derivation is bargeist, German for spirit of the funeral bier. So in Yorkshire, England, one notable case is said to frequent a remote gorge named Troller's Gill in the Yorkshire Dales. A ballad entitled The Legend of the Troller's Gill can actually be found in a historical book, and it has to do with all of this. The ballad recounts the tale of a man who ventures forth to the horrid gill of the limestone hill. I did say it was a song, right? In order to summon and confront the barguest in an act of ritual magic. The man's lifeless body is discovered soon afterwards with inhuman marks upon his, chest. There is also a story of a barguest entering the city of York occasionally, where, according to legend, it preys on lone travelers in the city's narrow snickleways. Furthermore, the building at number 1, the Shambles, is named Barguest. The town of Whitby is also associated with the spectre, and yet another one haunted an area of wasteland between Reghorn and Headingley Hill near Leeds. In Durham, during the 1870s, a shape-shifting barguest was said to live near Darlington and was said to take the form of a headless man, who would vanish in flames, a headless lady, a white cat, a rabbit, a dog, or a black dog. Another was said to live in an uncanny-looking dale between Darlington and Houghton near Throstlenest. If I got it wrong, I'm sorry. The barguest often allegedly serves as an omen of death. At the passing of a notable person, it may appear, followed by all the other dogs of the local area in a kind of funeral procession, heralding the person's death with howling and barking. Also, if you're gonna get in its way, it's gonna strike out with its paw, and you're gonna wind up with a wound that never heals. Besides taking the form of a large black dog with fiery eyes, it might also become invisible and or walk about with the sound of rattling chains. Oh, and it might foretell the death of an individual by laying across the threshold of their house. And like the vampire, they can't cross rivers. So, good to know. If your dog crosses the river, it's a dog. If not, get out of there. The hugahoo legend has been spread for many generations, either directly from French settlers to Louisiana or via the French-Canadian immigrants centuries ago. Hugahoo represents a variant pronunciation and spelling of the original French loup-garou, which is the version I heard about when I was younger at summer camp. It was a fun French camp. According to Barry Jean Ancelet, an academic expert on Cajun folklore and professor at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette in America, the tale of the hugahoo is a common legend across French Louisiana. So both words, so loup-garou and hugahoo, are used interchangeably. Everybody's got their own preference. Just so we all don't get confused today, I'm just gonna stick with hugahoo for the purpose of the legend. So in the Cajun legends, the creature is said to prowl the swamps around Acadiana and greater New Orleans, specifically the sugarcane fields and woodlands of the regions. The hugahoo most often is described as a creature with a human body and the head of a wolf or dog, similar to a lot of modern werewolf legends, and often the storytelling has been used to inspire fear and obedience. One such example is stories that have been told by elders to persuade younger generations to behave. So according to another variation, the beast will hunt down and kill Catholics who do not follow the rules of Lent, and this coincides with the French Catholic loup-garou stories, according to which the method for turning into a werewolf is to break Lent 7 years in a row. For what it's worth, I've been ignoring Lent for much longer and I'm not a werewolf. I'm part vampire, not part wolf. Long story. Anyways, a part of the legend says that the hugahoo is under the spell for 101 days, and after that time the curse is transferred from person to person when the hugahoo draws another human's life source. During the day, the creature returns to human form, and although acting sickly, the human refrains from telling others of the situation for fear of being killed. Other stories range from the hugahoo as a rabbit to the hugahoo being derived from witchcraft. In the latter claim, only a witch can make a hugahoo, either by turning into a wolf herself or by cursing others. I don't want to be cursed. In the folklore of Lee County, South Carolina, the lizard man of Scape or Swamp, also known as the lizard man of Lee County, is an entity said to inhabit the swampland of the region. On July 14th of 1988, the sheriff's office investigated a report of a car that was damaged overnight while parked at a home in the area of Browntown, outside Bishopville, South Carolina, on the edges of the swamp. So the car reportedly had tooth marks and scratches, with hair and muddy footprints left behind. The sheriff at the time, one Liston Truesdale, noted that this was the start of various claims that eventually snowballed into a story about a lizard man in the swamp. Prompted by the news of the vehicle damage, local Christopher Davis reported to the sheriff that his car was damaged by a creature he described as green, wet-like, about 7 feet tall, had 3 fingers, red eyes, skin like a lizard, and snake-like scales. Oh, and it happened like 2 weeks prior. So according to Christopher, he was driving home from working the night shift at a fast food restaurant when his car got a flat tire. And after fixing it, he saw this creature walking towards him. He got in his car, began to drive, but then the creature was soon on top of the car. So Christopher hit the brakes and the creature rolled off, which gave Christopher enough time to escape. Well, coverage by newspapers and media resulted in really increased attention for the claims. Local businesses began selling Lizard Man t-shirts. The local Chamber of Commerce was like, okay, well, it's good for the community. Fast forward to 2009, CNN mentioned the Lizard Man legend in a story about a couple in Bishopville who reported damage to their vehicle, including traces of redness. 2015, a local television station, WCIV, featured photos and videos claiming to be Lizard Man, allegedly taken by some unidentified individuals. 2017, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division sent out a humorous tweet being like, hey, just be careful during the solar eclipse, you might want to remain vigilant for Lizard Man. So looks like he's still creeping around. And the shug monkey is a mythical creature in the folklore of Cambridgeshire, sharing the features of a dog and a monkey, which reportedly haunt Slow Hill Lane, which leads from the village of West Ratting to nearby Balsham. So this creature, said to have the body of a jet black shaggy sheepdog and the face of a monkey with staring eyes, is not believed to be an escaped primate. But, you know, it's kind of terrifying. Local writer and broadcaster James Wentworth Day, who first related stories of the shug monkey in Here Are Ghosts and Witches, described it as a curious variation of black shug, while local folklorist Polly Howitt suggests that maybe there's some origins in Norse mythology here. Local police constable, a tailor, who heard the stories, was like, yeah, it's a cross between a big dog and a monkey with big shining eyes. Sometimes it shuffles along on its hind legs, other times it whizzes past on all fours. Okay, well, if you see that, run!
The surgeon's photograph is the first photo of the Loch Ness Monster's head and neck that was taken by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London gynecologist, and it was published in the Daily Mail on April 21st, 1934. Now, according to Dr. Wilson, he was looking at the loch when he saw the monster, grabbed his camera, and snapped 4 photos. Now, only 2 exposures came out clearly, as the first reportedly shows a small head and back, and the second shows a similar head in a diving position. Now, the first photo became well known, and the second attracted little publicity because of its blurriness. Now, for 60 years, this photo was considered evidence of the monster's existence, although skeptics dismissed it. The photo scale was controversial as it often was shown cropped, making the creature seem large and the ripples like waves, while the uncropped shot shows the other end of the loch and the monster in the center. Now, the ripples in the photo were found to be fit the size of pattern of small ripples rather than large waves photographed up close. But even so, maybe he found a baby Loch Ness Monster. Now, the first Loch Ness Monster sighting of this year happened in January when a visitor was on the shore of Dores Beach in Scotland. He said he saw something slithering around in the water and took a photo. Amy Todd, the Loch Ness Center's marketing manager, told USA Today that when the image was taken on January 29th, the water was calm and conditions were perfect. I just thought it was brilliant because it really shows like the wave, Todd added, and it looks like there's some kind of dark mass under the water pushing up that wave. So was it really Nessie or just some sort of object or seal in the water? I guess we'll never really know. On July 22, 1933, George Spicer and his wife saw a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car. Now, they described the creature as having a large body, about 4 feet high and 25 feet long, and a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk and as long as the 10 to 12 foot width of the road. Now, they saw no limbs, and it lurched across the road towards the loch 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. Now, George described it as the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal I've ever seen in my life, and as having a long neck which moved up and down in the manner of a scenic railway. It had an animal in its mouth and had a body that was fairly big, with a hump back, but if there were any feet, they must have been the web kind. As for a tail, I cannot say, as it moved so rapidly, and when we got to the spot, it had probably disappeared into the loch, he said. So was this the Loch Ness Monster? On August 3, 2012, George Edwards claimed that a photo he took on November 2, 2011 shows Nessie. Now, George claims to have searched for the monster for 26 years and reportedly spent 60 hours per week on the loch aboard his boat, Nessie Hunter 4, taking tourists for rides on the lake. He said, "In my opinion, it probably looks kinda like a manatee, but not a mammal. When people see 3 humps, they're probably just seeing 3 separate monsters." Now, other researchers have questioned the photograph's authenticity, and Loch Ness researcher Steve Feltham suggested that the object in the water is a fiberglass hump used in a National Geographic Channel documentary in which George had participated. Now, although George admitted in October 2013 that his 2011 photograph was a hoax, he insisted that the 1986 photograph he took was genuine. Now, the best known article that first attracted a great deal of attention about the creature was published on May 2nd, 1933 in the Inverse Courier about a large beast or whale-like fish. Now, the article by Alex Campbell, water bailiff of Loch Ness and part-time journalist, discussed a sighting by Aldi McKay of an enormous creature with the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch while she and her husband John were driving on the A82 of April 15th, 1933. The article said the creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon after, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. It went on to say that both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized that here was no ordinary denizen of the depths, because apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. Now, I don't know, this sounds pretty convincing to me. Now, on May 26th of this year, there was something called the Quest Weekend, which is an event hosted by the Loch Ness Centre and Loch Ness Exploration, where volunteers and researchers gather to search for the Loch Ness Monster. Now, they used underwater cameras to try to find the monster, but a report was made from that day saying a visitor to the area reported that they were there for the Loch Ness Quest. He said that he was at a high vantage point overlooking Urquhart Bay when he spotted a small motorboat entering the bay. When he checked it through his binoculars, he spotted something long and thin pop up in the boat's wake. It vanished a few times, but he managed to catch it on film. The sighting lasted 3 to 5 minutes and took place at 3:40 p.m. So could that have really been Nessie? In 2020, it was reported that the Loch Ness Monster was caught on a sonar. The image was captured by retired skipper Rod Mitchie, and the image appeared to show a 33-foot long Nessie. Now, he decided to come forward with his sonar image, saying, "I used to see surprising things visually or by sonar, but every time there was a logical explanation. But this contact was different. It really is unexplained. I passed over this point many times later, but never saw anything again." Now, he did say that it could have been an eel, but it sounds more like Nessie, as that would have had to be a huge eel. In April 2022, Glenn Blevins, a local resident, said he spotted Nessie through a pair of binoculars. He said he had never seen anything like it despite living near the loch for more than 3 decades. He saw a large object in the loch when looking through his binoculars, commenting, "I was near Alderley Castle on Friday the 15th of April, working on the banks of the loch when I saw a large animate object in the water beneath both banks of the loch at approximately 9:30 a.m. Now, maybe he made a mistake and this wasn't the Loch Ness Monster, but he's pretty convinced that it was. And known Nessie hunter Ion Fadohagen caught footage on a webcam livestream that showed 2 objects moving in parallel across Loch Ness on March 23rd, 2022. Now, the pair of shapes moved in sync before one made an unexpected sharp turn, creating an unusual wake. Now, he explained that the movement was inconsistent with floating debris or seal behavior. He specifically mentioned that the wake pattern ruled out driftwood or common waterfowl. Now, he's claimed to have had a lot of Nessie sightings, but this one might be the most convincing. On August 27, 2013, tourist David Elder presented a 5-minute video of a mysterious wave in the loch, which he believed to be caused by the Loch Ness Monster. Now, according to David, the wave was produced by a 15-foot solid black object just under the surface of the water. Now, David was taking a photo of a swan when he captured the movement, which he believed was from Nessie. He said the water was very still at the time and there were no ripples coming off the wave and no other activity on the water. Skeptics suggest that the wave may have been caused by a wind gust, but I'd like to think it was Nessie. Now, a man on the shores of Scotland's Dores Beach said that he spotted the Loch Ness Monster on January 29th of this year. He took a photo of the mythical creature, and sightings are usually rare in the wintertime, so this was crazy. Now, it was reported that he saw a large dark mass beneath the still waters of the loch. The Loch Ness Center posted the sighting, and some people believe it, but others are a little bit more skeptical. This TikTok is just straight up creepy. Now, a girl named Megan posted her experience while fishing with her cousin, and they think that they caught the sound of a mermaid on camera. As she explains it, the two cousins were fishing off the Gulf of Mexico when they began to hear terrifying sounds. Megan says that the night started off normal, they were fishing and just messing around, but eventually at one point they started to hear strange sounds that she says belonged to sirens, perhaps trying to lure them into the water. Now, the footage was so crazy she posted it on TikTok to get other people's opinions, and they all agree with her. One user commented, "For those unaware how sirens lure, they pretend to be humans drowning or calling for help, then pull you in." Another person added, "It can't be a person screaming because there were no breaths in between. It's a long, frantic scream, a human would have to breathe, and if they were underwater, they'd have drowned in that time. Siren." Now, maybe it's a good thing that the two girls didn't get up and check out whatever was going on, because they might have become the creature's dinner. A mermaid sighting was recorded from a submarine while researchers were in the Greenland Sea. Now, they were actually there to study mermaids, but they were still shocked at what they found. First, they heard tapping on the glass from outside the submarine. Then, all of a sudden, a white hand cracked against the glass behind them. The person filming spins around just as a dark object can be seen swimming away. Close-up shots later show the hand has 4 fingers and a thumb with webbing in between. Then another camera angle literally shows the creature swimming away. After this though, the researchers never saw this creature again. Was the tapping on the glass some sort of communication the mermaid was leaving for the humans? I don't know, but people are pretty convinced that this mermaid is real, as there have been many other stories about mermaids being spotted in the Greenland Sea. In 2010, a man named Howard Lockley began posting videos on YouTube of what he believed were real mermaid encounters. Now, he recorded sounds he heard at Wentworth Lookout, where he believed there to be at least one mermaid. In one video, he says that these strange sounds were recorded on February 6, 2010, between 3 to 5 a.m. Now, in the audio, you can hear strange mic interference that isn't normal, and at one point the mic actually stopped working altogether. But eventually it starts working again, and there's a lot of strange, eerie sounds being picked up. Not to mention, Howard had done this multiple times and gotten the same results. He even spoke to fishermen in the area who believed there was a mermaid that wandered in the waters as well. Now, the description of Howard's YouTube channel says, "Sightings of the so-called Wentworth mermaid date back as far as the 19th century. The creature, whose gaze is said to spell death for whomever meet it, has been attributed to a number of unexplained disappearances in the local area. The folklore has even woven itself into the famous floating mystery of the SS Algae in 1888, where the ship was found floating 10 miles from the shore with no trace of its 34-man crew to ever be found." So, did he actually capture the real sounds of this mermaid? I guess that's up to you to decide. It's said that a NOAA deep-sea research vessel captured footage of a mermaid in 2006, and let me tell you, it's pretty convincing. Now, they didn't mean to find a mermaid, as their camera was lowered deep into the ocean to investigate and repair an oil tank used by the research team. Now, as the camera scans the drum for damage, you know, business as usual, we can see different sea creatures swimming by. But workers on the vessel were shocked when a long-finned creature darts by the camera. Now, it only appears for a brief moment, but it doesn't look anything like the other fish that were caught on tape. Due to this, people think it's a mermaid that was caught on film. Now, it goes by so fast though that we can't be sure, as some people are writing it off as being a deep-sea eel or a large fish. Now, the creature swims by too fast to be sure that it's a mermaid, but there's definitely a possibility. A mermaid in South Africa was caught tricking locals into thinking she was a woman who needed help. You see, in 2008, the legendary mermaid known as the Kimman, a legendary water creature that is half human, half fish, was spotted in a river in South Africa. A group of family and friends were camping near the river when they heard a loud bashing sound. Now they went out to investigate and found what appeared to be a white woman with long black hair and reddish eyes thrashing about in the water. A man named Daniel Capito and his friend Martin Ocklers rushed over to her as they wanted to help the woman as she was making heartbreaking crying sounds. Now Daniel went first, but he said that he stopped in his tracks when he noticed a reddish shine in her eyes. Now the sight sent shivers down his spine, but he claimed that he was pulled forward as if hypnotized. Now he was able to muster enough energy to call for his son and his nephew to help him, and the two of them broke his trance. Then Martin said he saw the female figure swimming, first on one side of the low water bridge, then on the other, and then standing on the bridge before diving back into the black water. Now he said that the figure made the strangest sound, like a woman crying. Now his mother, Dina, said the figure sounded so sorrowful. "My heart could take it no more," she said. Now the group said that they had heard about and had been warned about the Kimman, but they never believed it existed. Now this encounter sounds terrifying, and I can't even imagine what those cries would have sounded like. A TikToker named Ryan Coleman has posted many disturbing TikToks of encounters he's had with what he believes are mermaids. Now Ryan works on a huge ship, so he's often in the middle of the ocean, and one night while in the middle of nowhere, he began to hear strange sounds. So he started recording and posting it on TikTok, and in one video he shows two creatures, one on each side of the huge ship, swimming really fast and keeping up speed with the ship. Then he begins to hear strange yelling and moans coming from the water, from those creatures specifically. It's unsettling for sure, but then at one point you can hear one of the creatures yell, "Jump for me." Yeah, they were trying to get him into the water, and every time I hear that audio I get the chills because it's just so clear. Now some people are saying that these are mermaids, while others say they're sirens trying to lure him off the boat. And I mean, that's what sirens do, right? They lure men into the sea. Now regardless, whatever it was creepy. And this isn't the only time that something like this has happened. Ryan has posted many videos documenting his experiences with what he believes are mermaids. People online think this is some of the best modern day proof we have of mermaids, and I have to say that I agree. A video has been posted on TikTok of someone in a kayak enjoying their time in nature when all of a sudden they started hearing strange sounds. Now they thought it could have been a fish or even a shark, so they took their phone out and started recording, but it turns out it wasn't a normal sea creature, it was actually a mermaid. Now the footage shows the mermaid's tail up and out of the water and flop down quickly, where she is seen swimming back deep underwater. Now clearly this scared the person kayaking, and they paddled away to shore, which was probably the best idea if we're being honest here. Now it seems like the mermaid or creature didn't realize that the kayaker was there and also got spooked. Now this person is so lucky that she didn't try to capsize them or drag them underwater to have as a tasty snack for later.
Bigfoot was caught scaling a mountain. During a camping trip, a youth group called the Campus Life stumbled upon an experience like no other. While setting up their campfire, one of the boys pointed out something large going across the mountain in front of them. The leader pointed the camera over to the hill, and there at the very top is an extremely tall but lanky creature walking along the tippy top. Given that this footage was filmed in 2001, it's hard to make out exactly what this creature is, but it is massive. Simply by comparison to the trees and distance, a normal person would have appeared smaller. The person recording truly believed it was Bigfoot, saying, to quote, "jumping up and down and shaking its fist at them." He seemed to be aggravated that these people were in its territory, or so they said. What do you think about this older video? Bigfoot was seen crossing a Michigan river. You never know what you're going to capture while on a camping trip. Maybe even the legendary Bigfoot. This family, while canoeing, managed to do just that. While canoeing the peaceful rivers of Michigan, the family noticed something large in the distance points just at the tree line. At first they thought it was some sort of bear, but then they realized that it was walking on 2 feet. The creature must have been at least 9 feet tall from what they could see, and as it slowly came out of the woods, they knew exactly what they were encountering with. Bigfoot himself started to cross the stream right in front of them, with the water not even reaching its hip. Despite the water being quite deep, he was making it across with such ease. The family recorded every second of it, which is what we are witnessing now. What are your thoughts? The Harley Hoffman video is one of the best pieces of evidence of Bigfoot out there. Very little is known about Harley Hoffman. In fact, all we know is that he took this mysterious video of Bigfoot trekking through the woods. Somewhere out in Georgia, Bigfoot has made himself known. His size is massive, probably at least 8 to 9 feet tall, with an enormous back and pitch black colored fur. His strides are long and wide, and he doesn't seem to notice that Harley Hoffman is there. Many people in the comments below seem to agree with this, believing it's solid evidence of the creature, with some stating that this is also what they saw back in the 90s, and some skeptics finally questioning his existence. I personally do think it's way too big to be a suit, especially for a simple home video. It does not look like a costume, but what do you think? Bigfoot was caught with a drone camera. Drones are one of the best things to have been invented because we've captured so much of the unknown with these things. Bigfoot may be stealthy, but our drone cameras are stealthier. I'm not entirely sure who the uploader of this video is or when it was put on the internet, but we have some striking footage of this creature taking strides through the woods. Simply watching the way it walks, the way its strides are so wide, making me question how big this thing actually is. Although it looks like it's walking like a person, there are some moments that it looks awkward, kind of like a young human. It still has that animal feel to it, at least from my perspective. The man filming stated he wanted to get in a little closer, but was fearful that the creature would destroy the camera if it got too close. Bigfoot makes a daring escape from a lake during a tour. This tour group wanted to take some really cool footage of the mountains out in Oregon, but what they captured was something so much more thrilling. While posing for the photo, on the far right of the video, we see this tiny little black speck emerge from the water and bolt across the field. One of the people there pointed it out when they noticed it beelining towards the rolling hills. The weirdest thing is trying to understand why Bigfoot was in the water. Was it possibly hunting, only to run away once it noticed the group of people there? Why would it run from people? Could it possibly be a juvenile Bigfoot startled by humans intervening on their land? So many questions to consider, but what are your thoughts on this bizarre footage? Before you know it, it's too late. Bigfoot has finally managed to catch up to you in the middle of the woods with nowhere to go. Let's check out some crazy Bigfoot footage that people managed to capture over the years. These two buddies captured Bigfoot on a trail camera. Trail cams are an amazing and sneaky way to capture live footage of the wildlife, even supposed mythological creatures. This footage they presented to the camera was bizarre. This bear-like looking creature standing on 2 feet walking past the camera. It happened in the middle of the night, and when they were watching back the footage, they couldn't believe what it was they caught on camera. Its body is massive and round, with equally as big arms at its side. The guys seem very proud of the footage they caught, and they should be. It doesn't look like a person in a costume. It doesn't even look human enough to be considered a person playing dress up. Its hands and feet also look similar to monkeys, which makes sense, and honestly, it just makes it look like a really beefy monkey. But what do you think? A juvenile Bigfoot was captured on a biking trail. Ever thought about taking a bike ride through woodland trails? No matter what might be out there. While taking on the risk, this trail rider decided to record his experience with a GoPro camera. While coming around the bend, there in the middle of the road is a tiny black little speck. It completely throws the rider off course, immediately turning the handles and guiding himself straight into the brush. Now, the hashtags under the video are stated to be Bigfoot sighting, so we'll keep it as such. However, the dangers of being around a younger Bigfoot is quite high, because you never know where mama might be lurking about. He had the right emotional reaction for this scenario. However, not many people were all too convinced and believed that it was just a black bear. Your thoughts? Bigfoot was captured in someone's backyard. It's more comforting to experience this monster when it's out in the middle of nowhere. But what happens when it's right outside your front door? While playing out in the backyard, a father noticed something lurking in the trees at the very back. Thinking it was a raccoon or something, he thought nothing of it, until it began to stand up, and he got the full picture of the terrifying creature. It was a 10-foot Bigfoot that was only 20 feet away from them. He managed to capture the image at just the right moment before it dipped into hiding behind the shed. You can hear the crunching of the trees beneath its massive weight as it makes its grand exit. Towards the end of the clip as well, we hear a massive roar emerge from the beast, startling the man with the camera to end the clip abruptly. What would you do? A Bigfoot was captured out in the Canadian woods. North America seems seems to be a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings, and especially in Canada, there seems to be more stories like this emerging on the internet. These investigators were given footage of a supposed Bigfoot ducking out of view in front of the camera. We don't see much of the creature aside from its massive furry back. Its fur doesn't look like a bear's, it definitely looks thicker, as well as it appears there are a bit of trap muscles on him as well. It does just look like a beefier person, but I don't think it's a costume. These investigators take it upon themselves to try and recreate the same video to really compare the size difference to help prove its legitimacy. From this, they were able to get a really good comparison on how much bigger the creature actually was. Bigfoot was accidentally seen while filming a movie. During their time on Prince Edward Island, a group of film students accidentally caught the mysterious creature running into frame while they were shooting some footage for a project. While the director shouted action, the first actor began running towards the camera, only for our point of view to capture this wild footage of a monster running across the field at full sprint. Some say it was a bear, but this one was clearly running on 2 feet upright. The cameraman is absolutely shocked by this and begins to run after it to try and get some more footage. It's terrifying to think that if the actor stayed there any second longer, he would have been crushed in its wake. What are your thoughts on this footage? Could this be the one that concludes this mystery once and for all? Do you have any Bigfoot footage you want to share? Send it to us and I'll be sure to talk about it in the next video. Animals and humans are becoming one. Literally. Scientists are blurring the lines between human and animal creation, mixing and matching to their desire. Let's check them out. Mammoths are back, and they're as small as mice now. We know that these giant beasts went extinct over 4,000 years ago, but scientists managed to merge their genetics with lab rats, and they are extremely cute. Their hair grows 3 times longer than regular mice and has a wavy look to them. Their whiskers are also adorable and curly. They have also been attempting this with the Asian elephant and connecting their DNA with woolly mammoths, but there's still no word about that yet. 8 edits were created on these mice, giving them the handful of variables that are closely related to the extinct beasts. One scientist stated, "I think the ability to edit multiple genes at the same time in mice, and to do so and obtain the expected woolly appearance, is a very important step."
This Chupacabra sighting happened back in 2008, and so a sheriff's deputy in DeWitt County, Texas, had no idea he was about to capture one of the most unsettling cryptid videos ever recorded on a police dash cam. He was patrolling a remote stretch of road with another deputy on duty when a strange animal kind of darted just out of the brush. Now, it had hairless gray-blue skin and arched back, long limbs, and walked with a very eerie, almost robotic type of vibe. And the eyes, well, they reflected light like an animal, but the same shape of the face was just wrong. I mean, the deputy trained to identify wild animals flat out said this wasn't a coyote or a dog, despite it basically being the size of a coyote. Now, it didn't move like one either, though. I mean, the footage made the local news and quickly spread online, sparking really intense debates. While wildlife officials chalked it up to just mangy, cryptid experts noted the creature's unusually long hind legs, its unnatural posture, and the way it seemed to be kind of aware of the car slowing down, turning its head to look directly at the dash cam. Many people who watched this footage, of course, were skeptical, with some saying it's a dog and others saying it's a coyote, but apparently, according to locals, their sheep and other livestock recently were being attacked and had fang marks in them, which would have been the same fangs this Chupacabra had as well. One argument that people had was that it couldn't be the elusive Chupacabra simply because they caught this one in the daytime, and it's alleged that Chupacabras only actually come out at night. Well, what do you guys think? Chupacabra, dog, coyote, something else entirely? Let me know. Let's go to Curo, Texas, back in 2007. This is where rancher Phyllis Canyon was losing chickens, but not in the usual messy, feathers everywhere kind of way. These birds were turning up deceased with puncture wounds to the neck, and not a drop of red liquid in their bodies. Whatever, was doing it wasn't actually eating the meat either, it was just draining them dry, which is terrifying in itself to even think about, because that means they were really just doing it for fun. Yikes. Now, one day Phyllis spotted a strange hairless creature stalking the property. She described it as dog-like, but with, a bluish gray tint to its skin, long fangs, and an angular snout. It didn't run like a dog either, it allegedly had more of a glide about the way it was moving. Now, weeks later, the body of a similar creature turned up unalive, alive near her property. She saw it and recognized it immediately. She took the passed on creature, and Phyllis had it preserved and actually mounted. And the skull looked nothing like a coyote's. Now, scientists offered DNA tests claiming it was a hybrid of a coyote and a Mexican wolf, but cryptozoologists, weren't so easily convinced. I mean, Phyllis went public with this, and National Geographic even interviewed her. I mean, the footage of her showing the mounted creature went viral. It was creepy, bizarre, and most of all, completely unexplainable. What do you guys think it looks like? I mean, it's ugly, whatever it is, I'll say that. Let's go back to 2014 in Ratcliffe, Texas, where residents weren't just seeing a strange creature, they were feeding it. Couples set up trail cams after spotting something prowling around their backyard at night. Now, what the camera caught was unnerving to say the least. A skinny, hunched creature with a long snout, large claws, and absolutely no fur. This one, however, seemed to maybe be a baby? Well, anyway, they nicknamed it Chupi and filmed it multiple times over several nights. The animal didn't shy away from the camera either. It kind of moved deliberately as if aware it was being watched. Now, wildlife experts again blamed, mange on it, and skeptics noticed that the creature's limbs were just abnormally long and that it didn't have any visible sores, just bare, tough, almost leathery type skin. Now, the video made national headlines, and even animal control officers admitted they couldn't confirm exactly what it was. Many people, of course, not only in this particular community, but the whole state, and also just generally online, once the footage was posted, they had a lot to say in regards to it. One person online said, "Finally, the mystery of the Chupacabra has been solved. Beware, folks, they are out there and they are looking for you." That's scary. Chupacabra sightings are getting more and more frequent, and for this sighting, well, let's go back, like way back, to where this whole modern legend started. I'm taking you to Puerto Rico in 1995. Now, that year, dozens of reports came pouring in from people all over the island claiming that their goats and livestock were being found unalived and completely drained. Witnesses described seeing a bipedal creature with large red eyes, spikes running down its back, and long clawed hands. One infamous piece of footage shows the creature running across a sugarcane field at night, hunched, tall, and very fast. I mean, it was recorded with a grainy VHS camcorder, and although the quality is very poor, the shape and movement still sends chills down the spine. Even more bizarre, well, the Puerto Rican government got involved. Military officers were reportedly seen inspecting some of the attack sites, and several villagers claimed they were warned not to speak to the press. Handful of digitized versions of this footage still kind of survive online. I mean, when you watch it, you'll see, why it triggered global Chupacabra hysteria. In 2011, in the remote village of Silo in Russia, something strange and quite terrifying began attacking livestock there. Farmers were finding their goats and sheep with small, very clean puncture wounds and absolutely no red liquid though. Then one night, a farmer set up a CCTV camera behind his shed. What the footage caught still has not been explained. Now, a humanoid figure, hunched and lanky with glowing eyes, creeps across the frame. It stops in front of a tree, stays completely still for like 2 minutes, eats some grass, it would appear, and then kind of slinks out of view. The creature didn't move like a person, its limbs were long, its arms hung low, and the way it pivoted its head was just simply inhuman. Now, Russian TV stations aired the clip, calling it the Russian Chupacabra. Biologists were stumped, and the attacks continued for several weeks before mysteriously just stopping. Once the footage circulated online, many people had their own thoughts and opinions. Of course, many said it's likely just a dog who's hungry, with others saying it's definitely not a dog. One comment that got a lot of likes and attention though is from an unknown person online who said, "People keep saying this creature came from the closest zoo. So you're telling me that came from a zoo? Absolutely not. The zoo isn't even close enough to this village for that to be possible. And also, I'm pretty sure that's a Chupacabra because the dogs do not have tails that long." Well, I guess upon reading this comment, everyone, and I won't lie, including myself, went back to check on this very particular find. And yeah, the creature's tail is in fact way too long to be a dog's. I just personally have never ever seen a dog with a tail that long, and forget the tail, the eyes too. I've never even seen a dog with glowing eyes like that. What do you guys think though? Could it possibly be some of the best footage we have to prove that the Chupacabra is real and is out there? Let me know. Back in 2020, just 5 years ago, and yes, wow, I can't believe I'm even saying that because 2020 feels like yesterday, am I right? Anyway, a woman named Susan in Blanco, Texas posted very chilling home surveillance footage to Facebook that left viewers stunned. At exactly 2:43 p.m., her camera picked up movement in her backyard. A very gaunt, dog-like creature with a skeletal build and elongated limbs kind of crept into frame. Susan said her pets had been acting strange for days leading up to the encounter. Now, many people believe it's a dog mixed with a mountain lion or or a rare hyena that escaped from someone's estate, but the main thought was that it had to have been a wild dog or a dingo or even a wolf. Now, Susan never saw it again, and Susan never wanted to see it again, and truthfully, I don't blame her. Finally, we have a clip that has been circulating online, and although the footage sucks because it seems to have been taken on a cheap security camera, you can see the animal, or whatever it really is, walk into frame slowly and make its way across the ground. Now, this thing was massive, and the giant creature you can see then turns its head towards the camera, its eyes reflected brightly, but instead of running, it slowly kind of just tilted its head and stared for like 10 full seconds. Wildlife officials dismissed it as a trick of the camera, and some thought maybe it was a lion, although that begged the question, how did a lion get there? Some said maybe a giant raccoon or a fox, which again, But locals weren't buying any of this. They assumed it was someone in a suit, which also is unlikely in my opinion though. The footage went viral in Texas cryptid groups, and to this day, no one has been able to definitively say what it was. What do you guys think though? So is this Chupacabra just a coyote, that's sick, a misunderstood predator, or are we dealing with something far stranger, like a predator that doesn't just, hurt, but hunts silently, surgically, and disappears before it can ever be caught? Either way, one thing is clear, these encounters are real, the videos are real, and what they show is something we still can't explain. The Beast of Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. A teenager swerved off the road to avoid hitting what she thought was a bear, but when she looked closer, it was no bear. It stood upright over 6 feet tall with glowing yellow eyes and fur matted with mud. It bared its fangs at her before sprinting off on 2 legs like a human, but faster. This wasn't a one-off sighting. Since the 1980s, dozens of residents in Elkhorn, Wisconsin have reported seeing the same thing, a wolf man lurking along Bray Road. Some say it even chased their cars. Named for the rural farm road on which it was first, purportedly sighted, reports of the creature in the 1980s and 1990s prompted a local newspaper, the Walworth County Week, to assign reporter Linda Godfrey to cover the story. Godfrey was initially skeptical, but later became convinced of the sincerity of many witnesses. Her series of articles later became a book titled The Beast of Bray Road, tailing Wisconsin's werewolves, so check it out. The shapeshifter of Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. One night, a rancher at the infamous Skinwalker Ranch watched as a massive wolf-like creature walked calmly through a field and attacked his livestock. Even after being hit point blank with a rifle, it didn't flinch. Instead, it stared at the man with terrifying intelligence before vanishing into the brush. Later, they found impossibly large paw prints that just stopped mid-trail, as if the beast had vanished into thin air, or shifted into something else. Some have suggested the creature could be a dire wolf, an extinct species, but this is not supported by scientific evidence, although the show The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch has explored the possibility. The TV series, also The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, has documented investigations into various, anomalies of the ranch, including the wolf-like creature sightings, and has included DNA analysis of samples collected there, so give that a watch if you're curious. The Land Between the Lakes massacre in Kentucky. A family of 4 were found brutally torn apart at a campground in the Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area. Park officials blamed a bear, but witnesses who arrived before authorities claimed otherwise. Now, one camper described hearing growls unlike anything he'd ever heard, followed by screams and something huge crashing through the trees. The survivor said the creature walked on 2 legs, had claws, and glowing red eyes. Their RV had claw marks 8 feet off the ground. The creature is typically described as a tall, kind of wolf or dog-like being with glowing red eyes and a powerful build. Now, many modern reports involve encounters with the creature matching this description, often near remote areas or campgrounds. Now, some stories suggest the creature is a Native American shaman transformed into a wolf, while others, propose a European settler with a night rage condition. The Palmyra werewolf in Maine. Now, in 2007, a husband and wife named Eric and Shelley Rockwell Martin were driving through rural Maine when their car suddenly just stopped. Moments later, they saw 3 large, upright, wolf-like creatures approach from the tree line. Now, these things were coordinated, walking side by side and circling their vehicle. When the creatures noticed the couple watching, they began tapping the car windows with clawed fingers. The creatures only left when a second car approached and actually scared them off. They moved to a rural farmhouse seeking a fresh start. Now, before the main event, the family noticed strange lights in the woods and a large nest in the woods, also indicating unusual activity. One evening, while relaxing on their porch, Eric and Shelley witnessed several wolf-like creatures approaching their house. The creatures had dog-like features, stood on two legs, and had pupil-less eyes that reflected a yellow-green color this time. Now, the creatures appeared to be stalking the family, circling their house and making them feel trapped. The family retreated inside, terrified of course, and spent a very long and frightening night barricaded in their home. Now, some speculate the creatures were dogmen or werewolves, while others suggest they might have been misidentified animals or even government experiments just gone completely wrong. Now, the family later found evidence of the creature's presence, including dug up ground, scratches on the house, and claw marks on the roof. The family ultimately sold the house and moved away, clearly disturbed by the experience. The Michigan dogman encounter in Wexford County in 1987, now a group of lodgers thought they were being stalked by a bear, but then it stood up on two legs, howled like a wolf, and charged towards them. It stopped just short of the tree line, kind of glaring before disappearing again into the forest. The film kind of starts with the sons of a man named Aaron Gable riding snowmobiles on an open stretch of land. It then cuts to Gable chopping wood before reaching for a drink. The film then jumps to a view of the forest before cutting to Gable's dog playing and running around on a road. After a short amount of time, the film then jumps to Aaron Gable repairing his truck. Now, soon after, he begins to drive down a road while his son operates the camera. The latter starts to record a creature crawling on all fours in the forest. Gable stops the truck, takes the camera off of his son. He follows the creature's trail on foot, and after a few shots of Gable walking and running through the woods, the film then cuts to a shot of the creature just standing still and watching Gable. The animal subsequently charges at Gable, prompting him to then run. The creature's jaws are visible for a brief second before Gable drops to the ground. Now, sightings of this dogman have been reported in Michigan since 1800. Some believe it's a cryptid, others say it's supernatural, and the state even released a song in the 80s warning people to stay away from the woods. The British werewolf of Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, UK. Now, in the early 2000s, dozens of people near Cannock Chase, and in particular near the cemetery, reported seeing a werewolf-like creature roaming the forest. This is one of the UK's most active paranormal hotspots. So many people visit who are looking to see some, well, paranormal stuff. Now, one man said he watched it, being a werewolf, devouring a deer standing up. Others said it chased cars and emitted an awful smell like wet dog mixed with decay. British tabloids exploded with werewolf headlines, and despite, criticism and skepticism, the frequency of the sightings led some local officials to quietly investigate it. The rugaru of Louisiana. Now, in the bayous of Louisiana, locals still whisper about the rugaru, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a wolf. But one account from a biologist surveying wetlands in 2012 stands out. He claimed he was stalked by something pacing him in the reeds. Now, it growled deep and low, and when he caught a glimpse through his binoculars, he saw something with glowing amber eyes and sharp teeth watching him from the brush on two legs. He cut the survey short and refused to return alone, of course. Now, there are modern reports of sightings and encounters blurring the lines between folklore and reality. According to some folklore accounts, people have reported hearing unexplained howls or seeing large wolf-like creatures in the swamps. These accounts, often coming from locals with deep ties to the bayou, contribute to the enduring mysteries surrounding the rugaru. The Ohio Howler in Mansfield, Ohio. Now, back in 2016, reports surfaced of a dogman sighting in Mansfield, Ohio, adding to the growing number of dogman encounters in that state. Family was sitting on their back deck when they heard a howl so loud it shook the windows. Their dog bolted inside, tail tucked, and when they looked towards the woods, they saw something massive crouched in the brush. Now, it had long arms, pointed ears, and a snout, and it was watching them. When they turned on the floodlight, it sprinted off on two legs, disappearing into the cornfields. The family later learned that several other neighbors had reported strange howls that same exact week. While the specific, details of the Mansfield sighting haven't been widely publicized, it's part of a larger trend of dogman sightings in Ohio, with some accounts describing the creature as a werewolf-like being between 4 to 6 feet tall, often muscular, with pink or gray skin. hidden and sometimes seen on all fours or walking upright. Podcasts mention other dogman encounters in Ohio, including a report from Judy who shared her encounters and her boyfriend Brian's plans to hunt the creature. Another podcast episode features a discussion about a terrifying encounter in the same area as Judy's, and were these encounters the result of hallucination, fear, or something science simply hasn't caught up to yet? Whatever the answer is, people are seeing something and the stories just keep piling up. So if you're walking alone in the woods and you hear a low growl behind your back, maybe don't look back.
In 2022, a man filmed what is believed to be Bigfoot in Tennessee. Footage shows a huge black figure with super long arms moving about in a wooded area. Now, as ever with these things, the footage isn't exactly the clearest, but there's definitely some weird creature hanging around out there. According to Bigfoot Input, the man said he first thought it was a friend playing a prank, but once he saw the length of its arms and how it moved from tree to tree, he quickly grabbed his daughter and ran back inside. He said he got a weapon and his dog and went back outside, but the creature had gone. Now, the video has been shared on social media, where it's got people baffled and questioning what it could be. One person said, "What gets me is how it grabs one tree and then stretches the other arm to grab the other. I've heard of that before." Another said, "Long arms, and I noticed the broad shoulders that you'll see a Bigfoot having that a hunter in a suit does not have." Now, everyone is convinced that it's Bigfoot, and I say that I have to agree. Now, a creepy video of a strange creature walking down a driveway had a local news station involved in the mystery. You see, late one night in 2019, Colorado resident Vivian Gomez posted a video of a strange sight her home security camera captured. And let me tell you, it's just weird. Now, the video went viral, with a lot of internet users comparing the creature to the house elf Dobby from Harry Potter films. But that still didn't explain what this creature was, as many people were stumped. Now, some suggested that the figure is Vivian's young son dancing with underwear on his head, and one news outlet even enlisted him to recreate the footage to try to put the theory to bed. Now, Vivian's son, though, denies that it was him, so what was this creature? And you know what? I don't think it was human. I mean, look at the way that it walks and its limbs. A human could not do that. It's just so creepy, but I'm glad that she caught it on camera, or else no one would have believed her. This is apparently a gnome recorded out in the wild. The video says that it was taken at Wollaton Park in England and that its estimated height was 2 to 3 feet tall. Now, it looks like how gnomes are usually depicted, with long pants and long sleeve shirts and a giant pointy hat. Now, these creatures are often depicted as living underground and guarding treasure or plant life. And I mean, this video being taken in a forest makes me believe even more as this being a real gnome. Now, some people in the comments were not too convinced, with them saying it was a young person in a costume or CGI, but what do you think? Now, if I ever stumbled upon one of these, I sure hope they'd be nice. Creepy trail cam footage of what appears to be a skinwalker has been making its ways around on the internet. It shows a white lengthy creature walking on all fours, and it's honestly just so creepy. There's no way with how its body's built that it could be a human. It's otherworldly for sure. Now, the video states that it was filmed in 2024 at the Appalachian Mountains. Now, a lot of weird stuff happens in that area, so I'm pretty compelled to believe that this is real and not a hoax. All I know is that I would be terrified if I ever saw that thing in real life. Now, a terrifying creature was posted on TikTok and people aren't too sure what to think of it. The person recording, though, was absolutely terrified. The caption of the post says, "Muslim traveler finds himself face to face with a monstrous creature lurking in the shadows. Heart pounding, beads of sweat forming on his brow, he instinctively raises his hand in prayer. With each recitation of the divine verses, he finds solace in the words of Allah, seeking refuge from the terror before him." Now my question is though, why did he stay there talking to it and not just run away? Now people in the comments were terrified of this creature, with one person saying the creature is aswang and to run. Now what is aswang? Well, in Filipino folklore, it refers to a broad category of shape-shifting evil spirits, which is just not good in this man's case. We don't know what happened after he stopped recording, but I hope he made it away okay. Video footage of a terrifying mermaid-like creature has been posted online, and it's just absolutely crazy. The video starts off normal, it's a dark night, and you can tell the group filming is on a boat. But then a creature jumps out of the water, lunging towards what appears to be a chicken on a string. You see, fishermen kept seeing this weird creature and they wanted to catch it. So they attached a chicken to a piece of string to lure whatever creature it was that they saw. Now this thing literally jumps out of the water and it's straight up terrifying, as its face is dark and hollow and you can see its arm reaching out for the chicken. Now the arm isn't a normal one though, it's webbed. Now the men recording the video even jump back and yell at seeing it, and some people in the comments are calling this a mermaid, a siren, or even a water demon. Now these men are so brave for getting close to that thing, but I'm sure they paddled right home after seeing that creature. At first, this video is confusing, but there's actually a creature attached to this goat before it jumps off and runs away. Now, what is this creature? Well, it's called the Penangalin. This creature is absolutely terrifying, as it's a nocturnal vampiric entity from Malay ghost myths. It takes the form of a floating disembodied woman's head, with its organs and entrails trailing from its neck. Now, from afar, this creature is said to twinkle like a ball of flame. And when this creature in the video runs away from the goat, you can really see that it's just a head. In Malaysian folklore, these creatures are mortal women who practice black magic. Now, I've never heard of this creature before, and it sounds absolutely terrifying, as I would not want to see this in real life. In 2018, this video went viral, claiming to show a 6-foot eerie faceless creature reportedly stalking a moose in the Canadian wilderness. The clip was posted by a woman named Audrey, who said, "I was filming a moose on a roadside. Looking at the video, I saw this strange shape at the back left. Can somebody tell me what it is?" Now, it's unclear exactly what Audrey captured on film, but some people on YouTube commented and said that it looks like Gollum. Now, one person even said that looks like the rake type creature stalking that moose. It must be pretty tall too. Now this creature appears to stand on its hind legs, though it's not clear how tall it is. The Sun called it a 6-foot tall monstrosity, and I have to agree, because honestly, what is that? It's clearly not human and not any type of animal either. It's just straight up creepy. Now, is this a ghost or some sort of residual spirit? This person caught dashcam footage of something strange on the side of the road. It was a person, but they had no feet and they were floating. Now, the user said they were driving to work on Highway 1 to Big Sur, California. While driving, it was pitch black out and it was around 4:40 a.m. and they refer to this thing as her. Now they go on to say that they've seen her before and that other people they know had seen her as well. So these people were preparing to see her again on this drive. They say that she's always wearing the same thing, standing in the same place, and always at the same time. She somewhat resembles a human, but she's floating with no feet, and she has the face of a skeleton. Now just thinking about that, is just terrifying. Now the people driving eventually make it to the spot and they see the creature and scream. It's definitely creepy, whatever it is. Now in 2023, Las Vegas police officers investigated reports of 2 unknown entities falling from the sky, and on the same night a nearby resident called 911 to report something 100% not human on their property. According to authorities, a man called 911 to report 2 unknown entities in his backyard, as his family saw a similar object fall from the sky. The man described the creatures as 8 to 10 feet tall beings that appeared to be like aliens with big mouths, big shiny eyes, and added that they're 100% not human. They were looking right at him and his family from their backyard, and the man kept clarifying that this was not a joke and that he was terrified of whatever was lurking in the dark. While there's no direct footage of these alien creatures, videos of something falling from the sky was captured by many different people.
At number 5, the Minotaur. The last creature you ever want to encounter is a giant buff dude with a bull for a head, but that's exactly what the Minotaur is. The story of the Minotaur is quite a strange one, but it goes like this. The king of Crete, Minos, made a deal with Poseidon that in exchange for his blessing, Minos would sacrifice his most beautiful bull to him each year. Though one year, an extremely beautiful white bull was born. So beautiful, in fact, that Minos vowed to keep it. Instead of sacrificing this white bull to Poseidon as he was supposed to, he kept it, and instead sacrificed his second most beautiful bull to the god of the sea. Of course, Poseidon was aware of this deception made by the king and decided to punish him. The punishment in question? He cursed Minos' wife, Pasiphae, to fall in love with the beautiful white bull. And when I say love, I mean love. Pasiphae was so in love with the bull, in fact, that she went to Daedalus, a renowned architect and craftsman, and asked him to craft a wooden cow for her so that she could hide within it and, well, do the deed with the beautiful bull. This led to her pregnancy and eventual birth of her bull-headed son. Pretty messed up on Poseidon's part to curse her like that, but hey, the gods were known for their vengeful nature, and Poseidon was no exception. Pasiphae cared for the Minotaur as if she would any other child, but Minos, ashamed of how the child came to be, enlisted the help of the legendary artificer Daedalus to create a prison to hide the Minotaur. This prison is the famous maze known as the Labyrinth, a near inescapable maze filled with confusing corridors, staircases, and familiar turns that'll have even the most skilled navigators lost. Considering the Minotaur's hunger for flesh, the labyrinth was used as a form of punishment by King Minos, sending the disloyal to their deaths by trapping them in the never-ending maze to eventually be found and eaten by the Minotaur. I'm sure you can imagine the sense of dread that fills the halls of the labyrinth, the smell of rotting flesh, the only noise you can hear being the approaching starved beast that wanders its halls. Many archaeologists believe that the myth of the labyrinth comes from the Kingdom of Crete's very own confusing architecture, as it has over 1,300 different hallways and staircases that lead all across its basements. Of course, these were no labyrinth, but it could be the origin of the concept. The Minotaur was eventually slain by the hero Theseus, as he ventured into the labyrinth with a ball of yarn to keep track of his path and was able to defeat the Minotaur in combat. Perhaps death was a mercy on the Minotaur, who was locked up all those years, cursed to feed upon the flesh of those who crossed his father. Well, not really his father, but the closest thing to it that isn't a literal bull. And at number 4, the Hydra. Also known as the Hydra of Lerna, the Hydra is a serpentine water monster that spawns from Greek and Roman mythology. It lurks within the lake of Lerna, which is thought to be an entrance to the underworld. So right off the bat, you know this thing means business. The Hydra is the offspring of Typhony and Echidna, two other serpent-like monsters of great power and significance in Greek myth. But the Hydra is a cut above the rest. The Hydra famously has several heads. Most typically, it's depicted with 50 that regenerate whenever they cut off. In certain myths, the Hydra is known to regenerate 2 heads for every head that gets taken off, meaning slaying it is a truly impossible feat. But if it isn't the 50 hungry heads that gets you, you'll certainly have trouble fending off against its poisonous breath. That is so toxic, just a whiff of it could kill you. The Hydra is quite famously featured in Percy Jackson. In the movie and book, the dragon of the lake steps out of the water and attacks Percy at a museum. Because, of course, it isn't even limited to the confines of its home. In Greek myth, the only one known to slay the Hydra of Lerna was Hercules, as he had to for the second of his 12 labors, a punishment given to him after killing his own wife and their youngsters. Hercules, like many before him, attempted to kill the Hydra by cutting off its heads, but much to his dismay, 2 more grew in the place of each one decapitated. Which was when he discovered that the only weakness of the Hydra was that it was unkillable so long as it had at least 1 head. So, Hercules called upon his nephew for help. His nephew gave Hercules the idea to use a torch to cauterize the head wound of every cut off head of the Hydra, preventing it from growing its heads back. Once it was left with but 1, Hercules cut it off with a golden sword and placed the immortal head under a rock, never to be found again. However, not everyone is a demigod with the same wit as Hercules' cousin, so if any sort of Hydra found its way to us, let's just say we're screwed. At number 3, Fenrir. Fenrir, also known as Fenris Wolf, stands as one of the most terrifying and enigmatic creatures in Norse mythology. Born of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angerboa, this monstrous wolf embodies chaos, destruction, and the uncontrollable forces of nature. Fenrir's appearance alone strikes fear into the hearts of both gods and mortals. He's described as a colossal wolf with fur as black as the darkest night, eyes that burn like molten lava, and teeth that are nothing short of dagger-like. This formidable creature's sheer size and aura of malevolence make him an unmistakable symbol of impending doom. But it's not just Fenrir's physical presence that makes him terrifying. It's his insatiable appetite for destruction and his role in the apocalyptic event known as Ragnarok. The gods recognized his growing power and sought to contain him, chaining him with Gleipnir, a magical chain crafted by the dwarves from impossible materials like the breath of fish and the roots of a mountain. Despite this, Fenrir's growing strength rendered Gleipnir ineffective, and he continued to grow, eventually breaking free to fulfill his terrible destiny. Fenrir's role in Ragnarok is pivotal. He is destined to break free from his chains and join the forces of chaos and destruction in the final battle against the gods. During this epic clash, he devours Odin, the chief of the Aesir, symbolizing the ultimate triumph of chaos over order. His insatiable hunger knows no bounds, and his actions hasten the end of the world as it's known, plunging it into a catastrophic, fiery cataclysm. Fenrir's terrifying nature extends beyond his physical prowess and apocalyptic role. He represents the uncontrollable and untamable aspects of existence, reminding us that even the mightiest of forces can be harnessed only for a time before breaking free. His presence serves as a reminder of the fragility of order and the ever-present threat of chaos lurking in the shadows. In Norse mythology, Fenrir embodies the profound duality of terror and fascination. While his monstrous form and destructive potential evoke dread, his role in the grand narrative of Ragnarok adds depth and complexity to his character. He forces us to confront the inevitability of change and the cyclical nature of existence, where even the gods themselves are not exempt from the forces of chaos and destruction. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf of Norse myth, serves as a chilling reminder of the primal forces that shape our world and the importance of finding balance in the face of inevitable change. And at number 2, Gorgons. The Gorgons, with their most infamous member being the monstrous Medusa, stand as one of the most terrifying and malevolent creatures in Greek mythology. These fearsome sisters are characterized by their hideous appearance, serpentine features, and the power to turn anyone who gazes upon them into stone. Medusa in particular embodies the epitome of evil within the Gorgon trio. Her story is one of tragedy and transformation, but it's also a tale of unrelenting malevolence. Once a beautiful priestess of Athena, she incurred the wrath of the goddess when she was seduced by Poseidon in Athena's sacred temple. As punishment, Athena transformed her golden locks into writhing serpents and cursed her with the deadly gaze that could petrify any who met her eyes. Medusa's transformation into a Gorgon marked her descent into evil. She became a pariah, an outcast, and a symbol of terror. Her malevolence lay not only in her appearance, but also in the peril she posed to anyone who dared to cross her path. She retreated to a desolate island where her deadly abilities became a weapon, and she reveled in turning those unfortunate enough to approach her into lifeless statues. Medusa's sinister reputation only grew as the hero Perseus embarked on a quest to decapitate her and claim her head as a trophy. And yes, she appears in Percy Jackson too. Great books, great movies. The gods aided him with gifts such as Hades' helmet of invisibility and Hermes' winged sandals. With these, he approached the Gorgon and, avoiding direct eye contact, severed her head. Even in death, Medusa's malevolence endured, for her head still possessed the power to petrify. Perseus later used her severed head as a weapon against his foes, highlighting the enduring evil of her legacy. Medusa's story serves as a cautionary tale of the destructive consequences of unchecked rage and the cruel hand of fate. Her transformation from a revered priestess to a monstrous Gorgon is a stark reminder of the capriciousness of the gods in Greek mythology. Her evil lies not only in her appearance and actions, but also in the tragic nature of her existence. The Gorgons, with Medusa at the forefront, remain as enduring symbols of terror and malevolence in the rich tapestry of Greek mythology. They remind us that even the most beautiful and virtuous can be subject to the harshest of punishments, and that evil can take root in the unlikeliest of places, ultimately leading to catastrophic consequences for all who encounter it. And at number 1, the Kraken. While not belonging to any particular mythology in the same sense as the other creatures on this list, the Kraken is a beast that has struck fear into the hearts of seafarers across the world. The Kraken, a legendary sea monster of Scandinavian folklore, is a fearsome and enigmatic creature that has captured the imagination of sailors and storytellers for centuries. This colossal sea monster is said to dwell in the dark, uncharted waters of the North Atlantic, terrorizing sailors who dared to venture into its domain. The mythos surrounding the Kraken paints it as an enormous, tentacled behemoth, capable of pulling entire ships and their crews into the depths of the ocean with ease. Its size is said to be so immense that its body can block out the sun, casting a shadow over the entire vessel it targets. This monstrous creature's appearance alone strikes fear into the hearts of sailors, with its massive tentacles, slimy skin, and a gaping maw filled with row after row of razor-sharp teeth. The origins of the Kraken myth are deeply rooted in the maritime cultures of Scandinavia, particularly among the Norse and the Icelandic people. Tales of the Kraken were often used to explain mysterious disappearances of ships and the treacherous conditions of the North Atlantic. The word Kraken itself is believed to come from the Old Norse word krak, which means an unhealthy animal or something twisted. Fitting. Despite the fear it instilled, the Kraken held a peculiar place in the mythology of the region. It was sometimes depicted as a protector of the seas, keeping balance in the underwater realm by preying on excessive fish populations or guarding underwater treasures. Some legends even suggested that the Kraken could be appeased with offerings, sparing ships that respected its domain. The Kraken's legend continued to evolve over time, seeping into the broader folklore of the sea. It made appearances in literature, most notably in Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where it embodied the depths of the unknown ocean. In more recent popular culture, the Kraken has become a staple of maritime adventure stories, often portrayed as a colossal, tentacled menace that threatens the lives of sailors and explorers.
Number 5. Draugr. First up on our list is going to be the Norwegian undead creature, the Draugr. If you're a fan of RPGs like Skyrim or God of War, no doubt you are already very familiar with the Draugr, because you've likely encountered roughly 30,000 of them in one of Skyrim's many crypts. Now the ones that populate Bleak Falls Barrow aren't exactly impressive, so let's learn about the real life inspiration. Well, you know, as real as a mythical creature can be. A Draugr, sometimes also called a dragon, is the ghost of a warrior who has stayed on Midgard. Draugr live in their graves, often guarding some treasure they'd collected in their worldly days at their burial mound. This is why, in Skyrim, you find them in the hundreds in tombs. That makes the most sense where you'd find a bunch of zombies, right? Ancient folklore suggested that if a man was to be lain to rest without actually being lain down, so if, you know, a body was left slump over or sitting, kneeling, what have you, any of the many ways that warriors land after they've passed, then the soul wouldn't be able to rest, and their body would be reanimated as a Draugr, doomed to protect their gold for the rest of their days in this mortal coil. It's said that those with dark spirits become Draugr, those with hearts of greed, hate, or with unfinished dealing. Now in life, a Draugr was a mighty Viking warrior, and in death, they keep that immense strength. Draugr are said to be supernaturally strong, although they give off an appearance of weakness, you know. They look necrotic, rotten, and generally foul, and are described as being pretty difficult to put down permanently. Some folklore even saying that they are resistant to most human weaponry. Now an interesting bit of Draugr trivia that some stories describe is them having the ability to walk through people's dreams, where they'll leave behind a gift so that the living person may be assured of the nature of their visit. A Draugr can curse someone in their dreams and mark them as a target, bringing disease, pestilence, and misfortune to their victim through the daylight, and then at night they can seek them out and strike. Now the best way to stop a Draugr is before they even rise altogether. In some cultures, the dead were buried with their toes tied together, or needles driven through the soles of their feet in order to prevent them from walking. The dead were carried feet first into their mausoleums, then bricked up behind a giant door. It was thought that the dead would only be able to leave the way they had came, and if they were carried feet first, they wouldn't see where they were going. And if you want to see more videos about cryptids, monsters, mythical creatures, real scares, well, we've got all of that and then some on Top 5 Scary. Click through, subscribe, and stay scared all night long. Number 4. Rugaru. A rugaru is a creature of French folklore, and it's sort of like a more Cajun answer to the werewolf. The name stems from the French word for werewolf, loup-garou, that over the years has shifted into rugaru as one word when being told and retold to generations in Louisiana and across New Orleans, and some parts of French Canada too. We get a Quebecois werewolf. I didn't know about that, and that was very exciting for me. This creature for the most part is very similar to a werewolf. It's a giant man-wolf hybrid. The key difference between a werewolf and the rugaru though is agency. While a werewolf traditionally is depicted as being powerless and at odds with their curse, often transforming, at the worst possible time. It's always right before a big date or dance or something. A rugaru has way more control. It keeps its human intelligence, its consciousness, and its faculties about it, even while it's changing into a monstrous wolf form, presenting the most dangerous elements of man and wolf. Throughout the 16th century, it was thought that the monstrous rugaru was responsible for just about everything that could go wrong in a village. Missing livestock, robberies, people missing, all the work of troublesome French werewolves. So like I said, it resembles one pretty closely. Ferocious claws, giant teeth, bipedal wolfman, although it can conceal itself as just a regular looking human, so you never know who you can trust. Just keep an eye out for anybody munching on dog treats at lunch. In Cajun legends, the creature is said to dwell in the swamps and the backwoods. There are several variants and local legends for where the rugaru stems from. Sometimes the legend states that it was someone who was cursed, either by voodoo or witches, and cursed to have a lust for human blood. Another really interesting variation I found of a rugaru's origins is that they are born out of those who break the rules of Lent, coinciding with old legends being told to get Cajun children to behave. If you make a promise to give something up for Lent and you break your promise, it's said a rugaru will sneak into your house while you sleep and drag you by the toes into the murky swamps, never to be seen again. The workaround? Just don't make any promises for anything, ever. Don't ever try to improve yourself. Number 3. Night Marchers. Much like their Norwegian cousins the Draugr, the Night Marchers are a mythical legion of ghostly warriors who refuse to break formation, even in death. The Night Marchers come to us from Hawaiian folklore and are the ghosts of ancient Hawaiian warriors who serve as the royal vanguard for a sacred king. They rise on nights that honor their ancient gods, and they're said to come forth from their burial sites, or even to rise up from the ocean, returning to the world of the living once more.
In at number 5 we have Skinwalkers. Rooted in indigenous folklore, Skinwalkers are creepy creatures that terrify anyone who dares to get near them. According to Navajo legend, a Skinwalker is a witch that is known for shapeshifting into any animal or living being in order to do harm. A Skinwalker can be described as animalistic with their physical intelligence and are impossible to capture. These creatures mimic sounds that might draw someone's attention, like a loved one or a stranger asking for help. They do this to lure their victims and gain their trust before ultimately bringing them to their own demise. The Skinwalker is a scary figure for indigenous people, and their presence is taken very seriously. Once the Skinwalker's true identity is revealed after capturing its victims, it is ultimately too late. This creature is so terrifying because our only understanding of them is to conquer our fear of them. What makes this even more frightening is the story of the Skinwalker Ranch. In 1996, a family of 4 moved into a cursed ranch. After just 18 months in their new home, they started to experience mysterious crop circles and mutilations of their cattle, and had sight of a mysterious large animal. This led the family to ultimately sell their ranch, but this didn't stop the sightings. Repeated cases of human-like creatures were documented at the ranch and surrounding area, leaving the case of the Skinwalker feeling even more real. In at number 4 we have Sirens. Often mistaken as mermaids, Sirens are mythical creatures with the head and upper body of a female human and the lower body of a fish. These evil creatures live in the sea and have sharp teeth. Sirens appear in folklore from around the world and are directly associated with shipwrecks. They directly appear in Greek's oldest work of literature, with them being described as bewitching singers. By the end of the Greek period, they had concluded that these women were no more than fables, yet the legend of the Sirens lived on for centuries after the Greek civilization crumbled away. Sirens can be considered one of the scariest mythical creatures because they are known for their intense beauty and luring attraction. Though don't be fooled by the beauty of a siren, as they can use their physical appearance and enchanting songs to lead sailors to their demise. Sail too close to their neighboring island and you will quickly find out what makes them so scary. Before the Sirens were known for their deadly singing and dangerous nature, they suffered greatly due to being cursed by Demeter and the Muses and exiled to a small island where they were forced to live a life of loneliness. Therefore, it is possible that the Sirens turn on men to avenge the wrongs against them. With modern and ancient reports of siren-like creatures being spotted, there is no solid proof of these claims, so it's known that humans have only explored 5% of the Earth's oceans, leaving the siren mystery still plausible. Moving on to number 3, we have Chimera, which could be considered one of the most terrifying creatures in Greek mythology. The Chimera is a creature that came from Lucia, which was located in Asia Minor. Chimeras are described as having the head of a lion, a tail that looked like it belonged to a serpent, and the body of a goat, with the ability to breathe fire, and known to be maybe invincible, with the strength of a lion, the cunning of a goat, and the venom of a snake. This might be one of the more bizarre creatures out there, but don't be mistaken, it's definitely not one to overlook. The Chimera was also seen as an omen of sorts, as he often appeared before natural disasters, mostly volcanic eruptions. Additionally, the Chimera had a terrible temper and no civilized instincts. She ransacked many villages, mostly killing cattle, but sometimes destroying houses and innocent people. The origin of the Chimera is known as the twisted offspring of a monstrous snake named Typhon and his half-human bride. The name Chimera is derived from a Greek Greek word that translates to she-goat or monster, which is fitting for the creature. The most famous story of the Chimera is the tale of Bellerophon, who rode into battle against her on the back of the winged horse Pegasus. Bellerophon managed to drive a lance down the beast's throat right before it could burn him with a fireball, ultimately leading to the creature's end. In at number 2 we have the Wendigo. You may recognize the name, but do you know just how scary the Wendigos are? Well, Wendigos were known to be a man-eating monster that roamed the land near the Great Lakes. Physically, they can be described with pale skin, prominent ribs, and sunken eyes. They had the appearance of a malnourished man, though what makes the Wendigo so terrifying is that they never feel full after a meal, leaving them to attack anything and everything they come across for a quick meal. The legend of the Wendigo lurking in the forest is a scary thought, and knowing that they are cursed to wander the land, eternally seeking to fill the void of their appetite and infecting others, is even more terrifying. This creature belongs to the spiritual traditions of the Algonquin-speaking indigenous in North America. According to legends, a human becomes a Wendigo after their spirit is tainted by greed or weakness by extreme conditions, and becomes possessed by a prowling spirit during the time of weakness. One could take away from the legend of the Wendigo from its beliefs, social structure, and traditions of 3 indigenous people telling these stories. The legend serves as a reminder of the importance of community, and what happens to an individual when they are left outside of the community. The story of the Wendigo highlights the importance of sharing and need for cooperation when it comes to surviving as a species. And finally, in at number 1, we have the Kraken. Known for its large size and roaming the ocean, the Kraken could be considered the largest and most dangerous creature in the sea. The monster can stretch out as far across as 10 warships side by side, and is considered the biggest monster in the sea, with giant tentacles that could pull a ship and its crew to their last breath. Even if it were to not attack you, the Kraken is so powerful by nature that the whirlpool it would create by diving below the water would be so massive, it could potentially sink a whole fleet underwater. Being such a big creature also brings a big appetite, where he will destroy any ship and marine life he comes across. Even though the Kraken is one of the laziest mythical creatures, with its size, it is rightly one of the most feared monsters. When facing a Kraken, you will notice bubbling in the water and scattering of marine life, as if everything in the ocean had to flee drastically, knowing something dangerous was coming. Any sailor who dares to want to survive their interaction with a Kraken must get as far away as possible, if it's not too late. In the 18th century, the Norwegian bishop Erik Pontoppidan insisted that the Kraken was real, and had stated to have recalled seeing it on multiple occasions. Pontoppidan described the creature as the largest and most surprising of all the animal creations. The fisherman also stated that it has a strong and peculiar scent, which it can emit at certain times, and by means of which it beguiles and draws other fish to come in heaps with it. There is a documentation of this scary monster ruling the seas since the 13th century. The Kraken ranks top among mythical creatures for centuries for its sheer strength and size. This creature can be considered the largest monster ever imagined by mankind. While there has not been any proof of the Kraken to exist, the ocean holds many real creatures similar, such as giant squids being documented and discovered by scientists, which can grow to be 600 pounds.
Number 5, Scarborough Beach. Apparently this thing was caught like last month, so it really does exist. Alright, that's it, I guess we can go home. Call it a day? No, seriously, it really does exist. When we think of the Kraken, I always picture like this 40-foot Lovecraftian monster climbing up pirate ships, cracking it in half in the 1940s. Well, they actually look more like this. Yeah. The Architeuthis ducks, or the giant squid. Scarborough Beach in South Africa just swashbuckled this thing long enough to get a picture. Have you ever seen a picture of a Kraken? Because I haven't either. Because these things are apparently so rare to see. This thing fights sperm whales. Yeah, out of the water they just look like a bunch of pool noodles and wet crinoline. But under the water, these things grow up to like 100 feet. It's like a 10-story building. Like, of tentacles. The giant squid is the longest cephalopod out there. That's the class of mollusks that includes squid, cuttlefish, and octopus. While there have been many claims of these ocean giants achieving lengths of 100 feet, the suckers on the giant squid's tentacles and arms measure to about your hand in diameter. Yeah, these suckers are lined with sharp, serrated ring teeth too. All that, plus suction, just holding on to you. No wonder they kill sperm whales, scar them up all Joker style, just rear naked choking them down into the Twilight Zone. Tap out. Tap out! Number 4, origins. We're going back to the origin story, the prequel, if you may. So who really was the first person unfortunately lucky enough to see this thing crawl up their ship and start swallowing people? The Kraken has been around for a while, right? Aristotle talked about large squids in Historia Animalium, while Pliny the Elder also described a huge squid with arms measuring more than 9 meters in length. Tales of gargantuan sea monsters have been common for centuries across Europe as well. And then of course, they're there for the Norse legends of the ferocious Kraken. The king of Norway, Sverre Sigurdsson, was the king from 1184-1202 of Norway. Sigurdsson believed a monster in the shape of a giant squid stalked the water around Norway, Iceland, and Greenland, just terrorizing sailors, dragging them down. Mentions of the Kraken can also be found once again in 1250 in a Norwegian text known as the King's Mirror. Here the narrator discusses all sorts of creatures found, including mermaids and mermen, and of course, the Kraken. Back then it was called Hafgufa. I tried. A monster so big that it could swallow up an entire ship. The Hafguva. The term Kraken was actually first used by Danish author Erik Pontoppidan in his works The Natural History of Norway, 1755. Quote, a great tentacled monster that would surface and attack ships at sea and then subsequently cause whirlpools and disappear. Then in 1857, Danish zoologist Japtus Steenstrup compiled stories of washed up animals and one particularly large squid that lurked amongst the ocean. He named it the Architeuthis ducks, or the giant squid. Number 3, Medusa. In 2004, the first giant squid was photographed while still alive. Zoologist Dr. Tsunemi Kobadera and whale watcher Kiyoshi Mori went looking for sperm whales off of Ogasawara Island south of Japan. They dropped a baited line on a camera to about 900 meters and snapped a selfie. A few years later, in 2012, scientists hit the jackpot. Kobadera once again traveled back to Japan now with deep sea explorer Edith Witter and Dr. Steve O'Shea armed with their secret weapon, Medusa. A special camera rig with a very clever name. Medusa uses a low light strobe system to avoid scaring the squid away. No boats, no motors, no loud noises, no submarines. Nice and quiet. They dropped Medusa to about 700 meters and captured a massive giant squid for the very first time in history. Basically, a camera with a float with like 200 feet of line carried through the current. Then they went down. They went down in the Triton, a 2-person submarine, and baited this thing out of the deep darkness with a bat squid and a strobe light. This thing was more than 2 stories big. Quote from Edith, we've only explored about 5% of the ocean. There are great discoveries yet to be made down there. Fantastic creatures representing millions of years of evolution and bioactive compounds that could benefit us in ways we haven't even imagined yet. We need a NASA-like organization for ocean exploration. Mind blown. 100%. Look, I'm the alien guy, Edith, and I couldn't agree with you more. Let's get some money going and get down there. Start snapping some pictures, see what's lurking. Number 2, octopuses. And now we head on up to Canada, of course, to the west. The best place for UFOs, Bigfoots, and now apparently Krakens. A British Columbia photographer was apparently walking a Vancouver Island beach with her dog when she discovered a large, quote, orange blob. Just a couple of months ago, quote, the little suction cups were even bigger than a toonie. Not quite the size of my palm, but they were big. She said the head was 2 feet alone. The creature is the Anoroctopus duflani, aka the giant Pacific octopus, the largest octopus species on Earth. Okay, squids, octopuses, they're both cephalopods. Could the infamous beast just be one of those? Last month, another huge guy was found in Newport, Oregon. That sounds like the start of a joke, doesn't it? An octopus washes up in Newport, Oregon. I don't know. Just the words there. 3 fishermen found this giant clinging to their crab fishing basket. Yeah, imagine that, just like holding on. Talking like 600 pounds here, people. 30, 40 feet. That thing could climb aboard and snap a little dinghy, no problem. Okay, maybe this thing really was out there snapping boats in half. Like they can both unscrew lids and escape bottles. They have brains and nervous systems. Dude, I'm only doing land from now on. I can't go in space, I can't go swimming. Like what's happening here? And number 1, Smithsonian. The number 1 spot, of course, the Smithsonian. Okay, so you can actually go and actually see this actual legendary Leviathan. Well, apparently at any of those places I just mentioned, but at least at the leisure of your own time and safety, here. Nowhere near water or the Twilight Zone. For just a couple of bucks, you can see the Kraken at a couple of places now. The big rare ones are all at the Smithsonian Natural Museum of Natural History, and there's only two. A zoologist named Dr. Clyde Roper has spent his life learning about the Kraken. He's discovered new cephalopod species, published more than 150 scientific papers, and now helps underwater himself, swimming around in a submarine looking for more. There are about a dozen giant squids on display in museums around the world. But at the Smithsonian, this female and male, the female obviously being bigger in its case, was caught by two fishermen's nets off the coast of Spain in 2005. 40 feet in length, 20 feet tentacles. The oldest one to date is about 300 million years old at the Royal Ontario Museum, of course. Suction cups still on this rock and all. I guess for now all we can do to help out is recycle, keep that out of the oceans, you know? Sit on Google Earth all day, refresh, scan the 7 seas. I guess that's about it.
Number 5. Makalu Base Camp. So in 2019, the Indian Army made headlines when they claimed to have discovered mysterious footprints of the Yeti near the Makalu Base Camp in the northeastern Himalayas. These footprints, measuring 32 by 15 inches, were a first-of-its-kind finding and created quite a buzz. The Army's Additional Directorate General of Public Information, or ADGPI, tweeted images of the footprints, which fueled the oh my goodness gracious. The tweet read, "For the first time, an Indian Army mountaineering expedition team has cited mysterious footprints of the mythical beast Yeti, measuring 32 by 15 inches close to the Makalu Base Camp on April 9th of 2019. This elusive snowman has only been sighted at Makalu Barun National Park in the past. Were they met with some public ridicule? Sure, but what whistleblower isn't these days? The Yeti, also known as the Abominable Snowman or Asian Bigfoot, is a legendary creature said to inhabit the Himalayas. Yeti sightings and encounters have been part of the Himalayan folklore for decades, with stories dating all the way back to the 1920s. One of the most famous early encounters was by British explorer Eric Shipton in 1951, because while searching for an alternative route to Mount Everest, he stumbled upon Yeti footprints on the Menliang Glacier, which straddles the Nepal-Tibet border near the Makalu Barun National Park. This discovery further fueled the legend of the Yeti. It's worth noting the Yeti's description varies, but is generally depicted as a large, hairy, ape-like creature that stands over 6 feet tall and weighs between 91 to 181 kilograms. The creature's elusiveness has only added to the intrigue surrounding it. In 2008, Japanese climbers returning from a mountain in western Nepal claimed to have seen footprints that they believe belong to the Yeti, adding yet another layer to the ongoing mystery. It's turning into like an onion situation. While the Indian Army's discovery of footprints in 2019 was certainly attention-grabbing, the existence of the Yeti remains shrouded in mystery and debate. The Himalayas, with their rugged terrain and isolated regions, still hold the potential for more secrets to be uncovered. Shall we see? Number 4. A Russian spotting. The footprint for this spotting, which was twice the size of a man's, was spotted close to the Marasu River in the Kemerovo region. It happens to be Russia's main area for Yeti sightings. The more you know. Denis Alexandrov saw the giant's mark as he wandered around his campsite with other folks his age early one morning. He asked his father, Andre, for a camera, saying, "Found an unusual footprint, Dad. Can I just borrow that? Thank you." No, his dad, Andre, said until that point he hadn't believed in the Yeti, but he changed his mind after inspecting what his son had found. He described the print as being from the ring finger down to the elbow of an adult, or twice the size of his own, but resembling a human foot. That's quite the footprint. Good luck finding shoes for that. Andre has been quoted as saying he's into hunting, so he understands quite a bit about footprints. And when he and his son went to the place where, they spotted the crazy Bigfoot, the only thing Andre could say was, "I now know it exists." The creature must have been very tall, and the edges of the footprint were sharp, which means the creature left the footprint not too long ago. There was also a freshly dug pit nearby. The print was in clay, but thankfully had not been affected by the heavy overnight rain. According to Andre, it seems that the one who left it was walking not long before the men woke up, since nobody had heard any noises during the night. Or maybe they couldn't because of the rain. The father took more pictures of the footprint and pinned the location, which is in the majestic Shorsky National Park, using, good old GPS. I use it all the time. I drive. He explained that he and his son were part of a group of 7 individuals rowing from the Ust-Kabirsa to Shuvashka, and that they arrived at their campsite in the evening and everything went normally. Some of the older folks set up camp while the younger folks had fun, and during the night a strong warm wind blew, and around 1 a.m. it started to rain. But the rain had stopped by morning, so logistically everything's checking out so far. Russia's best known Yeti hunter, Igor Burtsev, head of the Russian International Center of Hominology, based in the Kemerovo region, has previously estimated that as many as 30 Yetis roam this part of Russia. Apparently, we are on the brink of finding the Yeti at long last, but he said that back in 2011 and it's now 2023, so we shall see. And number 3, Putin spotting. Yep, in March of 2016, Vladimir Putin, the one and only, and his security people claimed they had observed 3 Russian Yetis while visiting a remote village in Siberia. Honest to goodness, if I hadn't read multiple articles about this with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Like, not just a Reddit article, I mean like actual news sources. Putin, big guy Putin, believes in the Yeti like the rest of us. dang, maybe I should buy a lottery ticket on my way home today. Environmental rangers and hunters in the remote mountain terrain say the Kremlin leader personally witnessed 3 Yetis, not 1, not 2, but 3, while on a helicopter trip in 2016 to a remote location famous for, claimed sightings of the Russian Almanesty, or wild man as he is known. The rangers went on to explain he and his entourage saw an adult male Yeti and a female one and one smaller young Yeti at a distance of about 150 meters. And this man was with the group at the time, so. The ranger's name is Dmitry, by the way, and he stated that at first the creature stood and just watched us, and then they took big strides and went off into the trees. Briefly, they reappeared again as if curious about the presidential group, who wouldn't be, but then vanished quickly again into the trees and brush. The creatures were covered in thick gray colored hair and took giant steps, far bigger than a man. The sighting is understood to have been confirmed by Putin himself and a security detachment after they inspected the footprints in the newly fallen snow. Now, pictures of the prints were released later on Friday, April 1st by the press service. So once again, we could understand that was an April Fool's joke, but it wasn't. It's unknown if they were taken by the Prime Minister, a noted photographer who was on the same trip, according to local newspaper reports. But the Yeti family sighting came on President Putin's wildlife visit to Siberia. He was said to be awestruck by the sighting, by the way, and afterwards scientists from the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science were ordered to investigate the discovery. But the Russians will do everything to protect the Yeti in their natural habitat. The president is apparently well known for his exploits to protect Siberian wildlife, including tigers, leopards, polar bears, and along with Pacific whales, but the Yeti find is his most remarkable achievement yet. According to what I researched, on one occasion in 2012, he flew in a hang glider over, Siberia in an attempt to teach white cranes how to fly south to migrate. I'm learning all sorts of things today. My brain feels like it's been, nailed with an Acme hammer, and all of a sudden I'm seeing tiny flying Putins, which is terrifying, so we're moving on. Jeepers. Number 2, a Pakistan Yeti. An expedition led by one of the world's most acclaimed mountaineers to find out once and for all whether the Yeti exists has been thwarted by the Pakistan Bad Guy Group with a name that starts with T that I cannot say. Once again, folks, interweb rules are rules, so if you need clarification, feel free to ask a kind soul in the comments. The trip to the remote mountains of northern Pakistan was said to have been led by Reinhold Messner, a 7-year-old Italian who was the first person to climb Everest without oxygen and to scale each of the world's tallest 14 peaks. He hoped to gather evidence in support of a theory put forward by Oxford University scientists that the Yeti may be an ancient hybrid of a brown bear and a polar bear. He and his team wanted to capture a wild bear in the mountains of northern Pakistan and take, redness samples and other samples that they could compare with the remains of, Yetis that they've collected over the years. The expedition was supposed to have been conducted in secrecy because of security fears, but the project was revealed by the Austrian press and then has been cancelled out of fear that the news may have reached folks in the wilds of Pakistan. So, according to Mr. Messner, right now everything has been cancelled because people who should not have known about the expedition obviously managed to find out about it in what was interpreted as, a veiled reference to that group that I cannot mention whose name starts with a T, but he remains available for this interesting project. He plans to gather that information that, once again, the Yeti might be a hybrid. Who knows what happened, tens of thousands of years ago. All sorts of things happen in the wild. I've seen a lot of dogs that have had babies that really shouldn't have had babies together. Number 1, another Russian spotting. So kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, summer is the usual time for sightings. And in 2019, well-known Tashtagol artist and sculptor Andrei Lyubchenko's claim that he came face to face with an abominable snowman kind of got the attention of quite a few folks. What's more though is the Yeti actually posed for him, allowing the artist to draw his picture on birch bark, and the pair even managed to speak. That's a language I don't know. I just know English and French. According to the artist, it happened so unexpectedly and fast that I had no time to get scared. There was a clear feeling that, this was a thinking creature. I felt he was trying to talk to me. The Yeti was apparently 2.5 meters tall, with thick, dark brown hair like a bear's, but a lot softer. He was holding a wooden stick with bits of hair wrapped around it, but the main thing were his eyes. They were just like light-colored human eyes. So don't look at mine, I'm not a good example. At the time, he was in the remote Kemerovo region, well known as the Russian region with the most Yeti sightings. We mentioned it a couple of times today. It was in the morning of July 27th when Andrei went into the taiga to gather materials for wooden sculptures. Apparently he needs a lot of curved and unusually shaped branches and lives right next to the edge of this area. So he left early in the morning, around 5 a.m. and was close to the Chernuka mountain. Andrei went out into a small open patch, and it was there that he felt the Yeti's presence. He turned back and saw the Yeti standing up, deep in the woods, not going away and trying to communicate. It happened so unexpectedly and fast that our poor artist had no time to get scared. The body of the Yeti was very toned, with lots of visible muscles. His hands and feet were proportionate to his body, same way as with humans, and his face was expressive too, just like his eyes. The creature also had huge legs. By human sizes, his feet were like size 60. To break it down, this suggests his feet were about 46 centimeters in length, or 18 inches. Andrei can't put into words how the duo communicated, and according to him, it felt like they heard each other's thoughts, as if it was like telepathy. There was only one word that the Yeti actually said when asked his name. His voice was low and chesty, and the name sounded as if somebody had hit a tambourine twice. Taban. After the encounter, Andrei sought out a local person who spoke, the local Siberian shore language language and asked what the meaning of the word was, without explaining where and how he heard it. He was told that there can be several translations, one meaning a soul, and another one meaning the one that wasn't discovered. The artist said he was talking to the Yeti for around 40 minutes, and admitted that he didn't have his phone with a camera on him, or even a camera, but always carries a pencil and something he can draw on because of inspiration. And this time it just so happened to be, birch tree bark. So he made the drawing of the Yeti and showed him, and the Yeti studied it really carefully for a while, and then drew a symbol next to the drawing. And we still don't know what the symbol means. The artist has been going through books and the internet, but has found nothing similar. He thinks it might be a symbol of friendship, but he doesn't think that's correct. If Yetis live so close to people, he was asked by Natalia Guzeva, a journalist, why don't they show themselves to more humans? Andre wonders if they're just scared to intervene, and mentions he's still in a state of shock after his encounter. I guess it was a pure coincidence, or perhaps it happened because I sincerely believed in the Yeti's existence and imagined how one day I'd meet them. He's also been dreaming about meeting them, to be quite honest. He also doesn't think that he's the only person that's met a Yeti. Others simply don't speak about it, greatly fearing they might be called, insane. All he can say about himself is that he is normal as one can find, physically and mentally healthy. He doesn't, consume no juice or anything else. He thinks that one day he'll get back to the place where they've met, and that he'll see the Yeti again. Now, local newspapers have said they've asked about him, and apparently he's a reputable person in the city, quite well known, and certainly isn't seen as a nutter.
The Highgate Vampire, London's Hunter. Now, in the 1970s, London's Highgate Cemetery became the setting of one of the most infamous modern vampire legends. It began with a series of sightings and grave desecrations that terrified locals. Witnesses described a tall, gaunt figure dressed in black with fiery red eyes and a face both skeletal and human, seen roaming the cemetery at night. People claim they felt a very oppressive, cold presence that made their skin basically crawl and hearts pound. This story took hold when a man named David Farron, a local occult enthusiast, reported a terrifying encounter. He described standing in the moonlight among toppled headstones when he came face to face with the vampire. Now, the figure allegedly floated rather than walked, and its red eyes seemed to pierce into his very soul. Neighbors reported hearing strange noises like anguished cries and the sound of digging echoing through the cemetery's misty paths. The legend escalated when multiple graves were exhumed. Now, some coffins were found disturbed, bodies allegedly showing signs of liquid loss, which experts tried to rationalize as decomposition anomalies. Yet, locals whispered of the impossible. Now, the press, sensationalized the story, dubbing it the Highgate Vampire, and the legend exploded internationally. Now, paranormal researchers flocked to the cemetery, attempting rituals to banish the creature, while tourists and thrill seekers began kind of sneaking into the grounds at night, hoping for a glimpse of the undead. Now, Highgate's story combines eyewitness testimony, alleged physical evidence, and the classic human fascination with the unknown. Whether skeptic or believer, the fear is instilled, and it's very real. Locals remain terrified for decades, claiming the vampire still roamed the dark corners of the cemetery long after the initial sightings. As you leave the fog-choked paths of Highgate behind, the thought lingers, what if the monsters aren't confined to old cemeteries? Mercy Brown, the Rhode Island vampire. Now, in 1892, a small town in Rhode Island became obsessed with the idea that vampires were responsible for a tuberculosis outbreak that had basically decimated several families. Among the most famous cases was Mercy Brown, a young woman whose demise from the disease sparked panic. Tuberculosis, then called consumption, was poorly understood, and the community blamed the disease on restless spirits of the deceased feeding on the living. Now, Mercy's mother, fearing the ongoing passings in their family, convinced local authorities to exhume Mercy's body, and when the grave was opened, her body was reportedly well preserved. Locals claimed her eyes were open and her flesh appeared fresh. They removed her heart and liver, burned them in ashes, and mixed them with water, which her sick brother was forced to drink in the hope of curing him. He had, passed on shortly thereafter, obviously. Now, the Mercy Brown case is particularly haunting because it is one of the last documented instances of a vampire exhumation, in the United States. Now, newspapers at the time covered the story extensively, capturing public fear and fascination. Scholars studying the case note that the, preservation of her body was due to cold winter soil and burial techniques, yet the townspeople response, reflected reflects how fear and superstition can manifest in gruesome rituals. The Ashes of Mercy Brown's heart tell one story, but in Eastern Europe, the tale of the living deceased has older, darker roots. Arnold Paoli, Serbia's bloodthirsty deceased. Now, the story of Arnold originates in early 18th century Serbia, where the Ottoman Empire's records document one of Europe's first official vampire cases. Arnold, a soldier, reportedly passed away after being bitten by a vampire in his village. Soon after, villagers claimed to see him walking again at night, attacking others and drinking their body liquid, of course. Now, reports describe villagers hearing strange noises outside their homes, finding corpses supposedly torn and drained, and experiencing panic that spread through nearby towns. Authorities eventually exhumed Arnold's body. Witnesses stated the corpse appeared unusually fresh and displayed signs that would later become classic, vampire evidence. Red liquid at the mouth, a swollen body, and flexible limbs. Now, local superstition dictated that, he was staked kind of through the heart. When the procedure was done, villagers claimed the attacks ceased and, normalcy kind of returned. Now, Arnold's case is well documented in court and government reports, making it one of the earliest formal investigations into vampire phenomena. Now, the accounts were detailed, including descriptions of symptoms, villagers' testimonies, and the supernatural aura surrounding the body. Now, historians consider it a combination of folklore, fear of disease, and actual rituals. Yet for locals at the time, the vampire threat was as real as any soldier in the night. You might think these horrors belong to distant lands, places untouched by modern life, but Croglan Grange attacks prove otherwise. Sometimes the monster comes not from the graveyards or the forest, but from the very rooms where you sleep. The night hides more than shadows, and a predator can kind of slip past the door while you lie unaware, listening to the tick of the clock and the beat of your own heart. Croglan Grange, a country estate in England, became the site of an attack that would haunt local memory for generations. A woman named Bridget, who lived at the estate, claimed she woke in the middle of the night to find a terrifying figure in her bedroom. The intruder had a pale face, sharp teeth, and a thirst that drove it to attack her while she slept. She managed to actually fend off the creature using a poker, leaving deep scratches on its face. Now, the figure reportedly fled, but the family later found red marks leading from the room into the surrounding woods. Several nights later, the vampire returned, attacking other household members and leaving similar terrifying evidence. Locals conducted searches, found footprints, and even reportedly saw the creature at a distance. Scholars and folklorists, studying Croglan Grange believed it could have been a combination of mental illness, rabid animal attacks, and of course superstition. But the intensity and detail of the victims' accounts have kept the legend alive. Some reports even include journal entries and letters detailing the terror, which remain archived in local historical societies. The Croglan Grange vampire is chilling because it blends the domestic and the supernatural, unlike the distant crypts of other legends. This vampire invaded the home, preying on ordinary people at night. The psychological effect on the household is well documented, and descendants of the family have confirmed oral histories that corroborate the attacks. Croglan Grange is not a story of legend alone, it is a warning, and warnings are easy to ignore until someone like Bellicus turns them into reality. Europe in the early 20th century was not only haunted by superstition, it was stalked by an exterminator who blurred the line between myth and carnage. In his hands, the darkness became tangible, the undead literal, and the line between folklore and true horror vanished entirely. And so this brings us to the Bellicus vampire crimes. This is Hungary's real-life monster. Now, in 1916, Hungary became the stage for a real-life vampire slayer, Bellicus, a serial assassinator who lured young women to his workshop under the pretense of marriage. He kept them in metal barrels filled with alcohol, where they eventually passed away, obviously. And he reportedly drank their red liquid to prolong his own life. Now, authorities uncovered this horrifying secret years later when they investigated his abandoned property and discovered the barrels, each containing a corpse with signs of attempted preservation. Now, Kiss disappeared before his arrest, but speculation about his vampire, tendencies persisted. Reports from neighbors describe his obsession with vital fluids, strange nocturnal behavior, and apparent longevity despite his advancing age. Now, his case blends criminal reality with vampire myth, and it shocked Europe when discovered. I mean, modern criminologists cite Bellicus as one of the first documented examples of a serial executioner explicitly linked to vampire practices. So the horror of Kiss is grounded in reality, unlike folklore. I mean, these crimes left physical evidence, police records, and terrified witnesses. His legend persists in Hungary with books, documentaries, and local lore warning of the vampire in the barrels who, may have evaded justice entirely. So, from London's misty cemeteries to the hidden workshops in Hungary, these tales remind us that vampires are more than fiction. They are the echoes of fear, the shadows, of the human imagination made flesh, and sometimes the very real horrors that refuse to stay buried. Whether you dismiss them as superstition or, steel yourself with reason, remember, every shadow in the dark could be watching. Every heartbeat in the silence could belong to something that will never truly fade.
Now, this fish looks like someone combined a fish and a human together. It's completely unsettling. Now, someone was near a river in China when they spotted this fish, and they decided to record it and post it on the internet. Now, at first, it seems like a normal fish, but its face has human-like features. I mean, it looks like it has human-shaped eyes, a nose, and big human lips. People in the comments are saying that it's just a ghost carp, but if you look at photos of that fish online, they look nothing like whatever this creature is. Whatever kind of fish this is, mutant or not, it's creepy, and I do not like it. No, not at all. Now, at first, this video is confusing, but there's actually a creature attached to this goat before it jumps off and runs away. Now, what is this creature? Well, it's called the Penangalin. This creature is absolutely terrifying, as it is a nocturnal vampiric entity from Malay ghost myths. Now, it's said that it takes form as a floating disembodied woman's head, with its organs and entrails trailing from its neck. Now, from afar, this creature is said to twinkle like a ball of flame, and when this creature runs away from the goat, you can really see that it's just a head. Now, in Malaysian folklore, these creatures are mortal women who practice black magic. Now, I've never heard of this creature before, and it sounds absolutely terrifying, and I just would not want to see this in real life. Now, regardless if the video captures this creature or there really is just something wrong with this goat, it's very creepy nonetheless. And now we have to talk about Mike the Headless Chicken. Yeah, you heard that right. Mike lived for 18 months after he was beheaded, surviving because most of his brainstem remained intact and a blood clot prevented him from bleeding to death. Yeah. Now, this all happened in 1945, and Mike gained a lot of fame. Although most of his head was severed, most of his brainstem and his one ear was left on his body. So it was like he was a normal chicken, just without his head. Now, Mike then began a career of touring sideshows and was also photographed for dozens of magazines and papers and was featured in Time and Life magazines. Now, he was put on display to the public for an admission cost of 25 cents, which is equivalent to about $4 now. At the height of his popularity, the chicken's owner earned $4,500 per month, equivalent to $63,000 today. Now, Mike was valued at $10,000, equivalent to $140,000 today, which again is just absolutely insane. Now, all of that came to an end though in 1947 after Mike choked on something and died. Now, this story is absolutely insane, and it's crazy that this actually happened. I mean, good job there's photographic evidence, or else I think a lot of people wouldn't believe this crazy story. Bigfoot seems to be part human, part animal, and he's absolutely terrifying. Now, there have been hundreds of Bigfoot sightings over the years, but today we're going to talk about one from May 2025 in Colorado. Now, residents have been shocked as Bigfoot was seen lurking in the woods. A whitewater rafting crew with the Colorado River Expedition was traveling down the upper Colorado River when they decided to go on land and take a break. But what they saw there shocked them. Logan Kirk, a lead guide, said someone yelled out that they saw a bear, so we started looking at it, and that's when we realized it was something else. It wasn't a bear, it was standing up there on the hillside, he said. It was definitely bipedal bipedal, which really stood out to us. The video of this, which has millions of views, shows a large furry figure walking through dense pine trees. Now it stops between two trees, appears to stare directly at the camera, and then vanishes into the woods. Now, similar footage has been posted to the internet, from Bigfoot being spotted in Canada all the way to California. Now, do you believe in Bigfoot? With more and more proof, I think I'm becoming more convinced. And mermaids are other creatures that have been spotted a lot recently. The mermaid, part fish, part human, has been a legend for years. But with more and more stories coming out and people seeing them, and these creatures being caught on video, it has become even more convincing that they're real. Now, one place that's infamous for mermaids is Jamaica, but specifically an area called Flat Bridge. Now, this first video is chilling as it shows people on rocks by the edge of the water. As they sit, they seem to be totally oblivious to the mermaid right under them. In the green murky water, you can see a shadow swimming. You then see splashing, and then a mermaid swim on the surface of the water. Now, it seems like the mermaid was surveying the situation, maybe seeing if she could drag the person into the water. Now, there's also been another sighting there where a group of people were standing by the water and again saw a mermaid. The water was murky like the last time and you couldn't see anything. Well, that was until they started recording and you could see the mermaid's head bob out of the water. Now, the people in the video then screamed that they saw a mermaid and she bobs back down into the water, hoping not to be seen again. Now, all I gotta say is we have to be nice to these creatures because who knows what they could do if they get angry. In May 2022, a TikToker posted a video of what appeared to be a giant standing on top of a mountain in Canada. Now, he zooms into a mountain and there you can see a large person. The guy filming it calls it a giant because it's huge, and I have to agree because there's no way a human being that big would be up there. Now, people were intrigued, asking the TikToker to get more proof and footage, but one day he just vanished and no one really knows what happened to him. Now, did he find something out he wasn't supposed to? I don't know, but I do know that whatever he recorded wasn't human. Then there's the mutant rabbits that are popping up everywhere right now. It started with a group of rabbits in Colorado that seem to develop horn-like growths all over their body. Now, scientists say there's no reason to be spooked as the bunnies have a relatively common virus. I don't know though, it looks like something straight out of The Last of Us. Now, people are freaked out too as these viral photos of the diseased rabbits include people calling them Frankenstein bunnies, demon rabbits, and zombie rabbits. Now, I actually kind of feel bad for them, but Cara Van Hoos, a spokesperson for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, said that the growths resemble warts but can look like horns if they grow longer. She added the growths don't harm the rabbits unless they grow on their eyes or mouths and interfere with eating. Rabbits' immune systems are able to fight the virus, and once they do, the growths will disappear, she said. So it seems like they won't stay like this forever, but they sure are terrifying. Then there's this creature that was caught on CCTV that no one really knows what it is. The city of Amarillo in Texas captured video footage of an unknown creature at their zoo. Now, they couldn't figure out what it was, so they released the footage and asked the public for help, but no one else seemed to know what it was either. Now, some people said it might be the legendary Chupacabra, an animal said to prowl around and drink the blood of other animals at night. And I mean, that does make sense because this was at a zoo, but others believe it could be a skinwalker. In Navajo culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. Now, regardless, no one could properly identify it, and the animal was never spotted again. Then there's this bird. It seems to be a pigeon with a huge neck that sticks out and large feet that are way too big for its own body. Now, the clip of this creature has gone viral, with people confused and just weirded out. The location of the video was unconfirmed, however, the rare breed of fancy pigeon can be found across Europe and the UK. Now, their unusual appearance is reportedly a result of many years of selective breeding, but this is just so unnatural, and I gotta say, that poor bird. Sometimes humans create the most messed up stuff.